water.
Do you guys work, Rylan, where's it go? He knows, yeah.
So the cork there, and then their tapping thing came right down on top of it. They started tapping, they got through, water starts coming out,
Is waiting.
then they shut the cork,
And him.
and that was it.
Go key for the door.
So you really have to keep, that's really what you have to keep track of.
It wasn't a threaded into the duct. That's how it- Okay,
Yeah, so open up that participants thing.
I'm threading it, or not threading it, tapping it.
Wherever, just so that, I like doing it that way so that you can see. What yeah.
Cats, I got moving.
Although that's not.
See the,
That won't show correct, yeah. It's just.
Okay.
And then they extended that, that's a 1-inch cork, and they extended a, or 1.25 cork.
inch and a half,
Inch and a half. Okay.
It went really well.
Other box.
And then they got to the sewer. There's the sewer connection. And on that,
Start here.
so they just put that, like a fern cove, kinda. And I guess I'm not too well versed in sewer and how that hookup goes, but they were doing it.
Yep, so then
should
when,
go.
when we do get public hearing or
The
public
big thing
comment.
is that it's watertight.
Okay.
There's different ways to do
Right
it.
now and then. Do,
Yes.
and that will allow you.
There's different.
I mean, that's perfectly fine.
So that was bent pretty well, pretty good. And
What was
the service valve for that flushing, it was,
box?
yep, so
Probably gonna hit one.
it's been hit by everything I imagine. So anyway,
I guess.
I had another one in the shop, we put a new one up.
Wondering.
It's all good, like I say, we're gonna, it would,
Yeah,
That's the main.
here we go. Make it bigger.
so, like,
There we go.
there's the bell of the pipe right there, and then they had like a mega lug fitting back here,
To share
two
this,
retainers, and then like a piece of,
minimize it for now, and then. Yeah, there you go.
That's not all that.
okay. It, hopefully when we do add on,
Was it just re-wrap there, or was?
That should be.
it was actual threaded,
Yeah.
threaded rod, yeah.
Sometimes you gotta be careful.
Yeah, just tell her, yeah.
So good. But that was the fitting they used. So it's threaded there, you know, the cork's threaded there, but that's our
Brad, let's
seal
get to
there.
share the
I guess
screen.
you'd call it.
When they're doing the slideshow.
For the people on the
Yeah, it's usually.
Zoom. No, I know it is, but for them, people on Zoom. to
Will
see
they
it, we'll
see-
have-
Will they see that?
I see our screen now. The Zoom people.
So yeah, we're
Will
just
they
gonna
see the
throw
slide?
Yeah, you're
black
gonna
pipe
share.
in the ditch, off the road,
On the west side or the east side?
east side.
It's
Everything,
gonna be in there long.
everything was in the east side. The plan said the west side, but it was all on the east side.
So we'll have to just somehow protect that. that's
Okay.
all. But if
Yeah.
that's close by, put something by it so that they.
Or are we doing it right away? No.
Right.
Sweet. Look at us figuring life out.
I never guessed. So on the plan, on the print, it does show a hydrant there. That would have been awesome if we could have worked together and got a hydrant in there, but, or somehow done something different, eliminated that flushing.
I kind of mentioned that.
He is having surgery next Tuesday.
Oh my God.
Right.
Residential house.
And so what happens, like, will he?
I don't know. So I sent a message today after I'm like.
Okay. Okay, so I was a little bit way off, okay.
She's like, do you want to leave him? Let's bring him in.
So hopefully that can be developed, we can eliminate that, put in a valve, put a hydrant there.
And your ears are here. You know, if I put it back.
Yeah, like I said, I need to study up more on the sewer,
And he's
just
like,
the fittings
so he
and
would stay there overnight without us.
there'll be plenty of that to come.
I'm like, yes. That is a hard no.
He said no.
Oh, leave his baby?
Or they like.
Yeah.
You know where it makes, there's that big one.
I know.
Hi, Joe. Oh,
It's on the list to get some more
It's already
packages.
okay, they're Johnson?
As time will.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't done for the
No,
season.
we're not, and I think we ran out. We ran out once.
pages, so you just gave us more.
I was calling your cell, I was
It's on the
emailing you.
list for sure.
Yeah.
And I was questioning it myself.
You know how people are.
Here's the.
So yeah, here.
Okay. Okay, very good, thank
So
you.
those are kind of your plans.
Yep, thank you so much.
You're gonna be driving out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the list.
Ryland, this is that permit that
That is.
We need to get started.
That would be a good idea.
We're gonna be here until midnight.
big agenda.
Ready? What are we waiting for? Mike?
Mike's gonna be late.
I don't honestly know how you. How are you?
It's Monday or Tuesday,
Or Tuesday.
June 15th, and we'll open up our city council meeting at 6:34.
Thank you.
So we'll do a roll call.
Jim Richards.
Ryan Nyhorst.
Dana Bergner.
Lori Novak.
Lizzie Fukun.
Great, thanks for being here. And for those on Zoom, anybody on Zoom?
Brian Todd.
Brian Todd, welcome. So first thing we have on our agenda is a public hearing. This is in regards to resolution 2021-05, which is an ordinance that needs to be amended. This is a public hearing. Oh, 5, I'm sorry. Yeah. This is an ordinance relating to conditional uses in the R1 and R2 residential zones, amending the provisions of Orinoco City Code Chapter 151, Section 151.115, and Section 151.116. It's related to permanent and conditional uses in R1 residential zoning district. So we have a couple of ordinances that need to be cleaned up to eliminate some confusion with another ordinance in our code book of 151.04. So if anybody would like to speak to this ordinance, please step to the podium, announce your name and address, and share your comments with us. This is the second call for anyone who wants to speak to ordinance 2021-05. And this is the third and final call for the public hearing for resolution, or it's ordinance 2021-05. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 6:37. And we'll continue with our agenda. Do we have a motion for agenda? I make one motion that we approve the agenda and move up the city audit review from E.4 to E.1 or before, the first thing in personnel committee after the fire department.
I will second that.
Second, okay. Any other changes or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Thank you very much. That's approved. Okay, second form. Before we start with that, just for the council's awareness, Mike will join us a little bit later this evening. He had to take care of some family issues first, but he'll join us. And we will, as we go through the agenda, there's a couple of things that we will move around for him to be participating in that discussion on the agenda. All right, public forum is a 3-minute time limit per person. The city council welcomes and encourages participation from community members. Please keep in mind that your comments must be pertinent to city businesses and must adhere to data privacy rules. No employees' names may be used. Please do not expect action from the council this evening regarding your concerns. We also request that your comments be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers will be recognized only once. At this time, we ask that anyone who would like to address the city council to step forward to the podium, state your name and address, and fill out the form that's provided on the podium. So with that, if there's anybody that would like to speak, please come to the podium. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, that's right.
Hi, thank you.
I just did to kind of follow up from last week's, and I know Dana brought this up herself when I read the minutes, as far as the high speed that goes through Zumber Hills Drive and Riverwood Hills Drive. And I bike all the time over town too. And so I see the speed off and on. It's just not those roads, but that's probably the worst spot, just because it was brought up in the last meeting how they, like she said, Becky, there's 115 homes coming out of there. Everybody's in a hurry to get to their kids or whatever to get to go. And the people, especially that live up on Zumber Hill Drive, it's dangerous. You know, I ride my bike there. I'm riding on the left-hand side, so I don't get hit. And I don't know if any of you heard this, but there is a gentleman that lives up on Iskus Lane, at the very end there. I think it's like 2 years ago. He got hit by a hit and run at the time on his bicycle. And this was on the frontage road over by the RV park, all the RVs. And it was an elderly lady who just kind of dozed off or whatever the case may be. And then when she got home, she actually realized that there was damage to her van. And that's when I went back. And by that time, the ambulance had come and taken them. But he was, last time when I heard, I think it was 5 months in the hospital with back injuries. He was throwing, I think, 50 or 60 feet. That's just an example of what can happen. You know, in this case, it wasn't for speed or so, but you know, if we could slow down the speed limits, especially in the residential. I mean, I'm worried about the little children I see on a daily basis, riding their little bikes, walking and whatnot. A lot of times they run, you know, mom and dad behind them, and they're a half block away, you know, before they can yell at them and stop. And, you know, in front of my house, I see them all the daily basis, especially delivery trucks and whatnot, UPS drivers, FedEx, they're on time clock and they're flying way over 30 miles an hour, a lot of them. And so if, you know, when I go over to Wisconsin and whatnot, there's multiple towns. They're 20 or 25 miles an hour on the residential streets, and people slow down because of that. And so I know it's a big change. Like I mentioned in my email, Rochester has already just did that in April. And so it's not, we're not sending presidents really when Rochester's is saying 25 miles an hour. But I just feel that it would help people slow down more. And, you know, it's only 5 miles an hour, but it is a difference. Just because everyone seems, if it's 30 miles an hour, it's 40, they always seem to push it, you know, the 8, 10 miles an hour. You know, it's just human nature. I know when I was younger, I did that. Right, wrong, or different, I'm not afraid to admit it. And so it's something that I just wanted to bring up as a possible, something the council to think about going forward. And I think it'd be advantageous to the town and make it safer for everyone. So.
Thanks, Steve.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll talk about that a little bit later in the
Yeah,
agenda.
I saw that, Jeff. I just want to give my 2 cents.
Appreciate the support. Anybody else like to speak in public forum? Third and final call for public forum. Seeing none, we'll close public forum at 6:41, 46. Okay, first item is fire department, Dan.
Evening. All right, so you see the runs, we had 3, so we had there was a car crash right in front of Tilly's. But by the time we got right almost to them, the deputy canceled us because there was no injuries, so we didn't get to do anything. And then a week before that, we had a lady hit a deer just north of 85th Street. So again, Middle Clinic ambulance beat us there, so we did not do anything, but we did what we could to help when we did get there. And then Zeppa had a barn go up kind of in their territory, and it was during the day and they needed help. So we had 3 people respond with some water and help out with the barn fire out. So luckily it wasn't the heat, so it was normal weather. And then I saw your email about what you had encumbered. So unfortunately, I think, it sounds like Keen talked to you this morning, a little bit about,
Yes.
that was a good synopsis of everything that's at the city council, but it kind of muddles up the things because you had items that were my normal budget items, the Leaf Association donations that we get, donations that we make from the gambling to the city. So I was too busy today to actually, I need to clean it up to just a few things that are
Don't
part of
bother
it.
with them.
Okay.
I'm the one that put the spreadsheet together.
Oh, okay.
So what I did was I just went through the council minutes.
Yep.
Identified what was motions for donations, motions for expenditures. Because that's basically all we had to go with to beginning, just to get something back to you.
Yeah.
That's, unfortunately, it's not the right thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So in talking with Kane, I fully understand what you're asking for. And for the council's benefit, what it is that sometime back, there was a fire department equipment fund that was set up to accept donations that could go towards, and it comes from the Relief Association, that could go towards purchasing fire truck, basically equipment, but it's all donations. It's not a budgeted item. But whenever that was set up, and I don't know, we'll have to go back and look, but one thing we can look at is the fire truck go bond that we paid for the truck. We set up about 6-7 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah, I want to say 2014, maybe.
Something like that. So we're gonna go back and look at those books to see how that go bond was set up. And there may be some history there to help us identify where this fire equipment fund is at. That's what we need to find out, and we just.
Yeah, that particular fund, and to me, again, that note that I sent you from, looked like Sandy, to me, it looked like it was in the CIP fund as like an earmark. And it had like a number, I can't remember what the number was, but it would look like it was there, and 2019 it had money, and then now it's.
So we need to go back and see how that was set up and where that fund is at. We'll talk to our financial planner, because he handles this CIP fund.
Yep.
Mike Bonnie. So we'll get back to you in July. I apologize for taking the time, but just we have a clear understanding it's something separate from our fire equipment budget fund.
Yes, and that was some confusion. So again, fire department, I have my budget, which has has equipment in it to pay for repair and maintenance and turnout gear and medicals and all those things. Yes, that's my budget as a firefighter.
Give us those figures, we put them in the budget.
Yeah, and then I have my Relief Association, which is the nonprofit side of the fire department. And then that nonprofit, we do charitable gambling. And charitable gambling, anybody in the state of Minnesota does charitable gambling, you have to donate all your profits. So we donate to the Pine Island Trap Club, we've donated fireworks, we've donated, and the big thing we donate is we donate to the city for this equipment fund. That's what we called it, for lack of a better word. So we have to donate all the money. So none of the money goes to the fire department, none of the money goes to the Relief Association, all the money has to be donated. So yeah, this donated fund that was the catcher of the money that we then use to make 2 large payments on the truck, and we bought a thermal imaging camera, we bought some stuff. So it's good for the city because we don't have to use budgeted city tax money to pay for these things. We're using gambling fund.
So in Gerald's benefit, we're defense, we just weren't aware of this special fund.
Yeah, I don't know how it was.
So that's what we'll continue to look into.
Yeah, I would just tell her, okay, please take this money out of this,
Right.
out of the equipment fund, and, I didn't know, didn't need to know, now I have it here. Okay. Okay, first responders, we had 3 city, 9 township. So nothing to change there. And then EOC, I talked about, again, quiet is good, when we don't hear from EOC, see, that's a good process, yeah. That's it.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, for the agenda motion, we have Andrew here from Smith and Schaefer to share with us an overview of the 2020 audit for the city. Everybody has a copy of the presentation as well, and if you want to share your desktop.
All right, thanks for having me tonight. I know you guys have a full agenda, so I'll try and keep this as quick as possible while hitting the highlights for the city. So we are contracted to perform the audit for the city of Orinoco for the year ended December 31st, 2020. So tonight we'll walk through this PowerPoint. We're not going to walk through the actual audit. We did sit down with members of the management and the mayor yesterday to go through the financial statement in more line-by-line detail. So every number that we talk about comes directly out of the financial statement into the PowerPoint. Gives you a little bit better history, some trends, and a little bit easier to understand as I'm talking about it up front here. So we can flip ahead to the second slide there. So our audit is a clean, unmodified opinion, which means we believe everything is fairly stated in accordance with GAAP. It is the highest level of assurance you can receive on a financial statement. It is reasonable, not absolute assurance that the financials are free from material misstatement. It is not absolute because we do not look at every single transaction that occurred throughout the year, but we do make selections based off of perceived risk, and then we follow those back to supporting documentation. And everything that we requested to see was provided to us with supporting documentation to get our level of assurance to that highest level. As I mentioned there, the financial statements were reviewed with Ryland, Jerry Lynn, and Renee yesterday. And then they did prepare the first section of the financial statement, the management discussion analysis that does provide some insight of why things are up or down. That was completed by management. Minnesota legal compliance, we did not have any exceptions noted in testing. That was a conflict of interest, adequate collateral, public funds, contract and bid laws. We did not note any exceptions with that testing. Our management letter, which is in with the financial statement, it's the same finding we've had in the past, just the limited segregation of duties for accounting functions. Very common cities of this size, I think 95% of my cities have this comment, so it's nothing to be aware of. It's just that it doesn't make fiscal sense for you guys to go hire 6 people for your accounting department in a city this size. So you guys are part of the controls as you do review those invoices monthly. That is just part of the role that we want to make sure you are fulfilling in that. Then our auditor's responsibility letter, which was also handed out, saying there is some use of estimate such as depreciation. We didn't have any disagreements with management. We did request that they sign a management representation letter that said they provided all information to us, but was signed and returned to us. So we did not have any issues with that. All right, on to slide 3 then. Just briefly, the different types of funds that the city does have. So they have the general fund, which is the main operations of the city. There's 3 special revenue funds, the TIF fund, the Gold Rush and Parkland fund, 4 debt service funds. There'll be 3 in 2021 as the 2012A refunding made the final payment in 2020. So that bond will go, or fund will be removed going forward. 2 city capital project funds, the water and sewer improvement, and then the capital improvements, and then the water utility is the 1 enterprise. On slide 4 then, we just briefly look at your operations. So the revenues coming in just for the general fund are in the blue, expenditures in the gold color, any transfers out are in the red, and then the change in fund balance. So on the far right there, the 2020, the revenues in the blue are up about 480,000, about 70,000 related to property taxes, 113,000 related to the federal CARES dollars that came in. About 240,000 that came in through the flood money as their, from the state for the flood. Our expenditures were up a little bit as well, but we did increase our fund balance in the general fund about 262,000. So the city did operate well during the pandemic and everything that went on. So I think you guys are in good financial position going forward. Flip ahead then, one more to slide 5 then, is going to be general property taxes. One more. There we go. So this is just your general property tax levy. So this is everything that's levied for all your bond funds and your general fund. So the general tax levy represents about 22%. So that was artificially low this year just because you did receive a little over 2.1 million in grants coming in for the wastewater treatment plant. So it's really closer to that 52% of the total governmental revenues that are coming in. When I say governmental revenues, that's everything that's coming in besides the water utility funds revenues. So total tax collections about 843,000 on a levy of 839,000. So we did collect a little bit of delinquents this year. Local government aid on slide 6. So once again, it's only 2% of the total governmental revenues, including the grants, 5% if we exclude those wastewater treatment plants. So brings in just under 89,000. So we did receive a little increase of about 10,000 this year. Go up to about 91,000 next year. So you get about 3,000 more in 2021. Slide 7 then just compares the property taxes and local government aid. These are the main funding sources for the city. You can see that the gap is widening between the pink, which is the property taxes, and the local government aid, as the state's not continuing to kick in their fair share for those costs. So you're having to levy more to keep up with those rising costs. On slide 8, then we get into our expenditures. So this is general governmental expenditures. This is for mayor and council, finance, administration, elections, professional service, and economic development. So spent just over 205,000 this year, up about 19,000 from the prior year. Most of the increase was related to some professional fees, some employee costs, and then it was also an election year. So every other year we do have that extra 4,000 or so to pay for the elections. On slide 9 then is the public safety. So public safety is going to be the police protection, fire protection, building inspections, planning, zoning, first responders, and emergency operations center. So spent within $105 of the prior year. So pretty consistent operations in the public safety. The breakdown is about 60,000 for the fire, 10,000 for the first responders, 44,000 for planning and zoning, 56,000 is the police contract, and building inspections was around 7,000. Next, we look at public works. So we separate out the wastewater treatment plant grant funds and expenditures this year, just because they are so large. So that is going to be the green numbers. That 2,380,000 was spent in 2020. The blue at the bottom is what I would consider your operating expenses for the public works. So that is down a little over 100,000. We're down about 50,000 in just snow removal alone, as 2019 was very high cost. There's some big snows that we had to do the snow hauling away. So those were not expenditures in 2020, and then repair and maintenance was down about 30,000. On slide 11 then is the culture and recreation. So this is the community center, parks and recs, and I should also add Gold Rush is also on there. So the green on the bottom is once again what I'm going to consider the operating expenses. So that's down about 30,000 in operating expenses, about 14,000 that's related to Gold Rush, 8,000 to salaries, and 8,000 to repairs. The blue is going to be the Atlas Park, the capital expenditures that was spent on that. Slide 12 then just showing the different categories this year with the CARES funding and the unallocated expenditures for the flood damages. Those totaled about 268,000, which is going to be the purple and the unallocated category. And the public works is higher with the wastewater treatment plant. On to slide 13 then is going to be the reserves. So when we talk about the general fund reserves, one way that people tell the health of this city fund balance is we take their unassigned general fund balance divided by the current year expenditures to get a percentage. So in the darker green is going to be the unassigned fund balance, which was up about 260,000 this year. Our expenditures were up about 100,000. So just under $1 million in expenditures. So we're actually at 105% of reserves. So the city is healthy in the current year in their general fund balance. On slide 14 then just shows the water and sewer improvement fund balance. So they are at a little bit of deficit, about 38,000 this year. Most of that is just gonna be timing of when those grant funds do come back in as you spend those funds and request reimbursement. So just the timing, they are at a little deficit as of year end. This fund spent about little over 2,380,000, and the grants received are a little over 2,162,000. So that difference of the 200,000 is bringing down that fund balance, that deficit. Capital improvement fund, that fund totaled about 745,000 at year end. The only expenditures that were coming out of here was about $4,600 for some fire jackets. This fund's funded through tax levy, about 195,000 of levy and 15,000 through gambling donations. On slide 16 then is just the three other special revenue funds that the city has. Gold Rush has about $8,300 in it. The Parkland was zeroed out this year as we used some of those funds to complete the Alice Park project. So that fund has zero in it, and that fund will be closed going forward. And then the TIF has about 66,000 left in that. We go on to the debt service payments then. The GO refunding, the first one there is the 2012. So that one does not have any of the light green color as that was paid off in 2020. So there's no future obligations related to that 2012 bond. The 2013 A bond has 231,000 outstanding, paid off in 2029. The 2014 GO bond has a little over 14,000 left, and it's going to be paid off in 2022. And then the 2017 has about 61,000 that's paid off in 2025. The water utility does have one bond outstanding, the PFA loan of 2009, so 591,000 left on that, paid off in 2029. So all the bond payments are being paid timely on all those outstanding debts. Slide 19 then is going to be the water utility. So the revenues are going to be in the blue. Actual cash expenditures are going to be the orange, bottom, or the lighter orange, excuse me, and then the darker orange is depreciation. We separate that out because that is a non-cash item, just so we know where our cash expenditures are. So the revenues were actually down a little bit, about 14,000, but this is all related to the water availability charge. There wasn't any charges. There was about 20,000 that came in for new houses in 2019. That was not in 2020. So the actual charges were up about $8,600 or 4% with the 2% rate increase on both the usage and the flat fee. So the revenues being up 4% makes sense on the charges side. Our expenditures were down about 6,000 and depreciation was relatively the same. So without depreciation, our expenditures about 95,000. So there was a small net loss of about 6,000 in 2020. But on the bottom there on slide 20, if we look at the cash in the green and the bonds outstanding in the blue, even though the fund did operate at a net income or net loss, we were able to add about 45,000 to our cash in the water utility fund. The cash balance has about 122,000 remaining in it. And I'll just briefly mention back in 2014, there was 231,000 that was borrowed from the general fund and also the wastewater or the water and sewer improvement fund, that fund well project that has not been paid back. So that fund does owe 231,000 back to those funds. I know we discussed this a little bit at our meeting yesterday on how to handle those paybacks if we just want to make it a permanent transfer, not make those funds being paid back, or do a 10-year payback of those loans. Just if there's any questions about that going forward, you guys can let me know. I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that as well. And then just the final summary slide here. So the general fund operations resulted in a $262,000 surplus. Ending fund balance a little over 1.2 million. Unassigned reserves of $1,047,000 or 105% of the current year general fund expenditures. The water and sewer improvement fund has a deficit balance of 38,000 due to the timing. Capital improvement fund has a healthy fund balance of $745,000 for future improvements. All debt payments were made timely, and the water utility fund rates should continue to be evaluated to build reserves. Just any major repairs that are coming up, you guys have 120,000, but the major repairs can wipe that out pretty quickly. So, I know I went through a lot of numbers pretty quickly there. Are there any questions? Or if anything comes up later, Gary Lind or I will get in contact with me and I'll be happy.
Good question. What was the loans you said that we needed to pay back at the very end? That
So the water utility fund, so once again, this was before my time and I think most people's time here. So we're in a little bit of a gray area. From the accounting records that I could see that was from the prior auditor, there was a $231,000 loan that was borrowed back in 2014 for, I think it was well number 8. When that project was, was two?
Oh, we have two, River Park well.
Yeah, River Park well. Back then, instead of bonding for it, there was cash in the general fund and these other funds. So they borrowed internally from those funds and they just have not been paid back.
Anything else for Andrew? Thanks, Andrew. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
One other comment with, we talked about this last month, is the bank reconciliation. And those arrangements are being made for them to start working with Geraldine this week, I think, so. Very good. Thank you, Andrew, for coming.
Thank you.
Give my regards to Andrew for Adam.
Yeah. Thanks. Have a good night.
All right, we'll go back to our personnel agenda, number 1. And this is brought it back from our May meeting of smart speeding on Zumbo Hills Drive. And at the time, there was a motion to look at a couple different options. One was following up with the county to use their mobile radar speed sign we can place on different streets and just kind of collects information, people passing by the speed they're going. So Jared did check with Sergeant Chambers, and right now it's being used at another city.
It's being used in Orinoco Township,
Township, okay.
and as soon as they're done, they're gonna come down and bring it here.
That one doesn't collect information. That one's only, right? That one's only.
They only have one, he said, and it collects, it does printouts.
You get a data.
You get a
Oh,
data
you do?
thing.
Okay.
Yep.
We used it 2-3 years ago to collect data too, so in Minnesota happened. So we'll plan is to put it on Zumbro Hills Drive and any other place we want to get some information. The other one we talked about, the other option was a speed table. And further back in our agenda, Joe has a estimate of what a speed table would cost, and so we'll review it back there. One other thing about the slow signs versus 30 mile an hour is right now there's slow signs that have replaced the 30 mile an hour signs on Zumbo Hills and also on Riverwood Hills Drive. So we're making sure that we're checking with the sheriff to make sure that's appropriate to do that. And the fourth item is to look at reducing the speed for 25 miles an hour. And that's where collecting the data is one aspect of looking at that. Our attorney indicated that needs to go through a process with MnDOT to reduce that speed limit as well. So we have several options out there that we're going to consider doing. And it just takes a little time to pull that information together. So we'll table that till July to see where we're at with this subject. So
The study though needs, in order to get the process going to change the 25 to lower it, it needs to be a different type of study than what we're doing
yes,
this.
it's with MnDOT and the state.
Yeah. So what do we need to do to get that process rolling?
Working with our attorney.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other comments on that?
I wanted to just also mention too, there are a lot of, in our developments, there are no speeding, there's no signs, like, I don't know, Cedar Woodlands, do you have, there's none. There's none in River Park, and I think it was because they were developments, the city didn't own the streets at that time, but they do now.
Yes, that's right. And
So I think that should be also considered when we're doing these projects of,
right, and Kane and I talked about that.
okay,
There's two signs on Second Avenue now. One is you turn off the Minnesota Avenue on the curve. There's another one closer before you go over the hill at Timberline. And there's one on Fifth Street.
right, but not in, so that's like,
Right, so we're talking about moving those signs around
perfect.
and maybe adding some red flags to them, just to draw attention to that.
Because I do agree that it's, I mean, we know that they have a time frame they have to be, but it is delivery trucks that do the majority of the speeding through our development anyway.
And I'll say the same up in West Center, when we actually had a neighbor that did get hit with a mirror and spun him around. Yeah,
On bicycle.
no, he was walking.
Oh, walking.
And he got hit with the
Yeah.
guy's mirror on his truck.
So there's
Yeah, it's.
2 or 3 streets, 4 streets.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, well, if we made it citywide on residential streets to be 25, I think that would be beneficial.
So those are all good comments, and we'll make sure we hit those spots. Okay, next item is closing City Hall. We've talked through that, and right now we'll continue to leave City Hall open like we have for all of the Gold Rush weekends, but we will close City Office. So there'll be nobody in City Office, so Renee and Geraldine will be off that day, just a 4-hour day for them. There's no place to park anyway, so there's never been any office traffic, so.
Right.
But otherwise, City Hall will be opened up, Stan Tech will put in the plastic for the floors, and Gold Rush will supply a cleaning crew for the restrooms, and it'll be locked from 9 PM to 6 or 6:30 PM when it's open again.
So, okay, 6:30 AM, okay.
AM, yeah, AM. But it is closed overnight, and the senior room will be used. This will be closed off, will not be available, locked. The senior room, the back half will be air conditioned. For vendors, anybody wants to come in and use it to cool off if it's extremely hot. And we'll have a privacy curtain for mother's breastfeeding, that type of thing.
So just to be clear, so City Hall will be closed on Thursday and Friday,
Just Friday morning.
just Friday morning?
But just the office,
Just my
Yeah.
office,
Yeah.
perfect.
One item, next item is the message board. And what we talked about, and we can quote in your packet. Excuse me. There are 3 feet by 45 inches, I think, the 3 quotes. Placed outside the west door. Full announcements off the bulletin board and duplicated announcements so people can look at them anytime when the office is closed on weekends or evenings. Quote for one single pane for $483. There's another one with 2 doors, same size, for $513. And they're all weather resistant cork board. And the last one is the same size, but it's quite a bit higher, $670. So. And these would fit on the right side of the door coming into the office, into the building, I should say.
We don't need the mount kit, so we go on the wall, right? This mount kit, we don't need that, that wouldn't be part of it because
We
it
don't
will
need
go
to
right on the.
So the single pane, raise it up, or the 2 doors. City staff prefers the double doors. Make a motion that we approve the purchase of the HD Supply message board for $512.72.
Second.
Jim, second, okay. Any other comments or discussions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say no. Next item, section is ordinance and resolutions, and these are all voice votes. First one is a adoption of a summary of an ordinance 2021-04. The ordinance itself has it's a summary because of the tiny homes, but there's a couple sections in that tiny homes that was needed to be repealed and replaced with these updates that's listed on them. But the tiny home ordinance is it's a very long ordinance, and it would cost like $1,100 to put in the paper. And it's within the legal rights to publish a summary of an ordinance. It draws attention to it. The text of the ordinance is available for those wishing a copy of it, either mailing or going to our city website. So I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2021-04.
Second.
Jim, second. Any comments? Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor with the voice vote? Signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Approved, no opposing votes. Ordinance 2021-05 is an ordinance that needs to have an amendment done to it where this came up in a discussion last month that we needed to correct some conflicting ordinances between 151, 115, and 151, 116. And how they compared to what was in ordinance 151-054, which was residential usage also. So I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2021-05.
Second.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all those by voice vote signify by saying aye.
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 Approved. Okay. Next ordinance, 2021-06 is and this is an ordinance we're going to wait until Mike is available, and we'll come back to that then. Let's see, the next item is 2021-14, which is a resolution regarding FEMA bids for construction of our Zumbo River restoration flood repairs in the former Lake Shady Basin. Joe, would you like to speak briefly to this one?
Yeah, so we did provide city with a copy of the construction plans. We're ready to go to bid. This is kind of part of the formal process of approving the plans and authorizing us to advertise for bid. And so assuming that we do this, we'll go to the paper on Friday. It'll get advertised starting next week, and then in 3 weeks, we'll open bids.
Could you give us newbies a little background?
Yeah, so the Zumbo River restoration was completed, and in 2019, there was a flood. And that flood resulted in some damage to the newly constructed river restoration components. And so Ryland and I have been working with FEMA for years to get that approved. And so subsequently they approved a report that was completed, and we completed the report and said, you know, these things kind of need to be fixed, and then they reviewed it and approved that, and then subsequently approved the project. And so that allowed us to move forward with the design of the improvements. Ultimately, FEMA's paying 100% of the improvements, provided that we're only repairing the flood damage.
So do they pay for the design
They do.
as well?
They do. They do. So it's a painstaking process, as you can imagine. But we're working through it, and we're hoping to open bids in July, award the project, and then complete the improvements through the summer and have everything done by the end of the year.
So the drawings are is on your table, the big ones here, so like,
Yeah, I brought up bigger paper copy, a little more.
We have those.
Okay.
So that probably answers my question about asking or making one of the river crossings permanent.
River crossings.
Like they're making temporary river crossings to do this work.
Yeah, and so that's just to get equipment across
Right.
it. And so, yeah, a permanent river crossing would be something that we would have to get approved by the Army Corps and the DNR, and there are some hurdles and requirements that might preclude that from happening. Depending on, you know, what you're kind of looking for. You know, obviously you can construct bridges over it, but
Right.
the problem is it's all floodplain down there, and you've got to elevate the bridges and not fill floodplain, and, you know, it would be a complicated and expensive process. We've kind of talked about different options to do that over the years, but that can't be part of this project. It could be something we could explore in the future if we wanted to.
Thank you.
I
So
can tell you personal experience doing that, because my dad did it on our farm, and it was almost an act of Congress to put our bridge back in. You know, so it is quite a lengthy process. Took us 3 years to get it passed.
so there's a couple things I just want to draw attention to. It has to be finished by the end of December. So it's, and the project, this dollar amount that's on that, that was all approved by FEMA. And so that took a process, the design had to be shared with FEMA, so there's just a lot of, you know, this has been going on. This, to get to this point, started about a year and a half ago. I'm guessing something like that, yeah. This is the last of 2 other FEMA projects, 3 other projects. We had one was the River Park restoration, the path restoration, those 2 separate. And then we also did damage on the bridge itself, on the Lake Shady Bridge. That was also done. That was another FEMA project. But this is the biggest one. Probably one of the biggest ones in Olmsted County from the flood from that standpoint. If you looked at the drawings, you'll see that the path that they're using for transporting materials will probably wipe out any paths that we have out there now. And so we may have to move that one post sometime to a couple of those posts, but we have a couple of trail markers now for the.
And we can be flexible. They're, you know.
But just so people wonder, and most likely people will not be able to go in the lake bed either because of the construction area. I don't know if that's-
During this construction. Well, that'll be something we have to make sure people know about. The trails are closed during the construction time.
When there's equipment out there, people shouldn't be.
A fence with yellow tape or something.
So, and I will be, you know, if there's additional correspondence with FEMA, we'll be submitting these to FEMA too, but we're trying to move this along.
So the bids go out tomorrow then? Or when?
They have to be to the paper by Friday, and then they publish on Wednesdays. So,
We'll know well in advance of the July meeting.
well, we advertise
Or
for
not
3
put it in the
weeks, so
packet, so it's not a last.
it takes 4 weeks. Just does,
Okay.
unless you want to wait till August, and we don't. Because you got to advertise for at least 3 weeks, and council meetings are 4 weeks apart, so.
All right. I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-14.
Second.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, approved. Next item is resolution 2021-15, which is a variance for property at 528 Vintage Road Northwest to a variance to allow the construction of an accessory structure in excess of 18 feet tall to our code. We have a public hearing was held last Thursday night. Jim, you were there. And Leslie was, she was healing up accident, but she's fine now. So Jim, you want to, everybody had a chance to read, there's 6 criteria, I think.
So there's basically 6 criteria that have to be met. And they met 4 of the 6. And with that, I don't know how far you want me to go on this, in terms of our recommendations and what our conversation was.
Yeah, I think you should spend time on the two negatives, I guess, as far as the background, why it didn't pass.
Yep.
And we can
So-
discuss that.
Yeah, so actually, I should find it. So the 2, so I will say, so he's basically asking for 2 variances, a height variance and a square footage variance. And the 2, I think it's 2 that weren't met is, one of them is, let me find it here. That it wasn't met, or it wasn't due to the property. The variance isn't a request due to his property. And it wasn't something that, I forget the other one, that, I don't want to say that was out of his control, or I believe is what we said. I don't have my exact notes. Let me see.
The first criteria.
Yeah. There we go. There it is. Okay, so the first criteria, there were extraordinary conditions or circumstances such as irregularities or narrowness or shallowness, the topographical layout or physical conditions of the lot. That's one that he didn't meet. He's obviously got a lot of property. So that was one, and the other one was the extraordinary conditions or circumstances are, due to the uniqueness of the property, not created by the landowner. Those were the only 2 that he didn't meet.
Okay.
And our thought is, I think it was pretty much the consensus. The planning and zoning, we can't approve or suggest the approval of it unless it meets all 6. However, it was consensus. We do believe that we should give him the variance. And some of the reasons why, I took some talking points that we had. The physical location, that building physical location is to the back of the property. You're not really going to be able to see much of it at all from the highway or from the frontage road. In the building, based on what he's putting together, it's going to be commercially built. And it's what we called it was the harmony. It's in harmony with the other buildings on his site. And the other thing is it meets 4 of the 6 criteria. we also talked about at some point proposing to change the 151,054 because the landowner, he has 10 acres. There's some farms, hobby farms that are 10 acres. And the other thing that we said, in terms of the square footage, we know that it's only allowed 5,000 square footage, but if you really think about it, if he subdivided that, I mean, even into 1 acre lots and put 1,000 square foot home on there, that's 10,000 square feet right there. And the other thing in terms of the height of this, there's, he's looking at 23 to 24 feet in height. There's some homes that are much taller than that. So for that reason, it was kind of a consensus that we don't know why it shouldn't be passed, but we could not recommend it to be passed. So that's why it was passed to the council to take a look at it based on these points. Okay.
Any other comments or questions? I'll share with you my comments. I agree with you from a consensus standpoint. It's 10 acres. The building is 1,000 feet from the streets.
Right.
It's like 500 feet from the nearest neighbor. So it's really remote. You can't see it from the road, and it's 10 acres. The first criteria, I see that as being more of a reasonable criteria for meeting. And it's reasonable because it is, got the property, the size of the property for is, he wants the building to store equipment for economic reasons for his business. He's not conducting business at the place, but he's storing his equipment for tree, and he needs, or tree trim, he needs the higher walls and the roof and everything. So it is, I'm assuming it'd be designed and built to the OACC guidelines. Like the first two words escaped me what OAC means.
Yep.
Orinoco area. Something
Yep.
compliance or something like that. But it's guidelines for how a commercial building should be
Right.
built. And I think there's agreement that he will do that, is my understanding. So in my thinking, the criteria is reasonable, mainly because it's such a big property and there's no neighbors. If it was in a more dense neighborhood, it might be a different question. But I think because where it's at and its remoteness, it's okay. The second criteria, it's kind of, they duplicate each other between the two. The extraordinary conditions, and to me, that gets back to it being so remote that the circumstances unique to the property are, they're not created by the landowners, just that's where it's at. So it's just, I think to my mind, that's more of a positive than a negative, so. And the other criteria, the other four criteria, I didn't have any problem with those. I thought those were in harmony with the general purpose of everything and consistent, so. Just a side note from this variance, and we talked about the variance of being excess of over 5,000 square feet over 5 acres. I think that's, with his buildings that he's adding, it's going to be over the 5,000 square foot area, and you recognize that too.
Right.
I also recognize that's going to 10 acre site too.
Right.
So you could have the gentleman go through a CUP to get that exclusion, or to meet it, I guess, or to maybe on the CUP, and their variance, I guess I should say. But I think that's just a foregone conclusion. If it was 2 acres, it might be questionable, but 10 acres, to me, it's just more of a understanding. So for discussion continuing, I make a motion that we approve ordinance or resolution 2021-15 with the adjustments to the criteria number one, and that it does meet a reasonable circumstance. And it's consensus within the neighborhood and the class of the zoning district. And also in criteria number two, the extraordinary conditions are unique to a 10-acre plot and being 1,000 feet from the nearest street. A positive.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I would second it.
Jim, okay. Any other comments from other members of the council?
I would just say in the future, maybe we should really consider amending that ordinance just so that people who do have such uniquely large properties do not have to go through this process.
Expanding the chart. Yeah. Okay, we'll take that back to
So say that again. I didn't.
the chart that's in that 151,054.
Oh, yep.
To expand that. I think that's what you're asking for.
Amend it.
I don't have a copy of that here in front of me.
Yeah, to amend that with the, people who have larger properties.
Oh, right. And I think, is it, the 151,054. Yeah, and we said that we would come back
Yeah.
with that to amend it based on, property size or lot size. I think it only makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2021-15, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no? Or aye? All right, thank you. It's approved. All right, move on to Parks and Trails. Memorial Park, in your packet, there's a summary of expenditures for the Memorial Field ADA. And there's no quotes in the packet. I think we've been talking about this. The spreadsheet that shows there is that the differences between the Midwest and the flagship recreation is small, but it is $400. So Kane, would you please come to the podium for a second?
Yeah, any questions? Here.
There's a lot of commonality in the codes between the two of them because it's common for either swing, so it's.
Which
So-
one do we have in the rest of the city?
Flagship. At this point, it doesn't matter to me. If we go with flagship, we have some of the same tools and hardware on hand. That's why flagship would be beneficial. But then again, maybe Midwest Playscapes is a better product, we find out. So I'm open to trying a new manufacturer.
I don't see anything for installation.
Right, installation is, I put that on the bottom here, fabric, concrete, miscellaneous, Menards. That's gonna be done by city staff in the fall. So we're gonna take that on ourselves, just like this swing set up here. We installed that, city staff did, so we feel comfortable doing it.
All right, we have, there was $25,000 that was budgeted for this, our budget, so we have the funds, which is good, so.
Okay, do you think because we have the parts with the flagship, do you think that's a smarter choice even though it's a little bit more expensive? think it doesn't really matter.
I don't think it really matters. $450 on an $18,000 project. I could go either way. Like I said, maybe Playscapes is a better product, or maybe they got better, who knows?
Have you seen any of their products?
I haven't.
No.
We're pretty exclusive to Flagship, so.
Okay.
So you haven't
Have
like
they-
taken a test ride on any of
I
this?
haven't taken a test drive on Playscape, so. But I would comment, these out here are holding up good. The ones in River Park are holding up good. Riverwood Hills. I think they're both a fine manufacturer, so either or at this time.
And the parking lot would also be a paved path from the parking lot, which has 2 handicap spots identified and the path up to the swing set area.
Correct.
The border would be like this one,
Yep, same thing.
plastic.
Yep, plastic timbers, maintenance free.
And the playground equipment that's there now with the fire station or the fire engine, that's gonna stay, I believe. Or is that-
Yeah, it can stay until it reaches its useful life, yeah.
So I make a motion that we purchase the swings from Flagship Recreation and spend up to $19,000 for all the costs.
Second.
Lori? No, Dana?
Dana.
You're Jim. Choose one of us.
Okay. Any idea when that, are you gonna do it this fall? So we got
This fall, yep. I will place the order. Hopefully there's not a, 6-month lead time on it, but hopefully to see it this fall, installed this fall, and maybe be ready to use this fall. It might be spring. We'll see.
Any comments? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed, unless say no.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
thanks, Ken.
All right. There's an item here of idea to start a group for volunteers for parks. Who could speak to that? Dana?
Sorry, I just put food in my mouth. This was just a friendly note, something that they wanted to let the council know they're thinking of making a Friends of the Park group, volunteer, help our city out, help our city staff out, do certain things like watering and helping with weeding and garden beds, and what else do we say, Kane?
Just general help to the park system.
Right. Lots of communities have things like this. So just wanted to make council aware we're thinking about forming a group like that.
Good. Interesting decision. Is that something that's gonna go out to the HOAs or just off the website and Facebook asking for?
I think by the time we got to this part of the conversation, the bugs were out really bad, so we didn't really get into the nitty gritty of how we were gonna approach it, but we will
Okay.
continue to. We'll continue to talk about it,
All right, very good.
let you know.
I just realized on the past motion, I said 19,000. But the committee recommended 20,000. Would everybody be okay if you had a motion in your park minutes to purchase up to $20,000?
Oh, I see. Do we need to make a friendly amendment?
Amend the
We
motion.
can go back and make a friendly amendment. Was that,
Yeah,
you wanna make a friendly
up to,
amendment?
yeah, I'll make a friendly amendment to that last motion to spend up to 20,000.
Second,
Second, okay.
all in favor of amending the previous motion to the $20,000 for improvements to the Memorial Park grounds, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. All right, thank you. Next item is an FYI, the Zumbo River Regional Water Trail. Our guiding committee put together, or has been working on a online survey. It's a 5-minute survey. This is all part of our public input that goes into the master plan. And we've shared that with the Dodge, Goodhue, Olmsted, Wabasha counties with their county representatives and 10 cities and Lake Zumbro. And the idea is to get public input. We shared it on our website as well as the Facebook. I think it reposted on the Citizens of Orinoco Facebook. So we're asking everybody, hopefully everybody on the council has filled out the survey. Takes 5 minutes, there's 12 or 13 questions. So we're asking for input from the 4 counties. We also were able to obtain a distribution list for the Zumbro 1 watershed part, Zumbro 1 plan, which is the previous watershed partnership. There's like 300 names there. So we're getting it out as much as we can. We'll keep that survey open. There's a website the survey is on, another opportunity to get connected to a newsletter. More, we're just trying to get as much exposure to this. But all this public information will come back, we'll analyze it, and all that information will go into our master plan that will be put together by SEH engineering firm. And we'll go back to our core group of city and county representatives, share that plan with them, draft, get more input as well. And I don't know if we'll be able to complete it by the end of this year, but that's our desire to continue to push that plan, and that we sent into the Greater Minnesota Parks and Trails Commission for approval. Once it's approved, then we can start putting together plans, setting up a governing board, so we can submit plans of how we're going to improve the amenities of egress in and out of the river, parking lots, and just a number of strategic locations. Strategically, we do that. If we do it amongst all 11 locations, it might be not cost prohibitive, but we're looking for the biggest bang for our buck. And by that, we look at strategic locations within the 4 counties that are on the river, and those are the ones we'll update and work towards. So very similar to Game Haven, Cannon Valley Trail. Those are all regional parks. And it's a multi-year project, and it's exciting, both for recreational and economic development for outfitters like Justin, and for any new ones that want to come on board too. So we're close to Rochester, and you don't have to drive very far away to take advantage of the river itself. So it's a plus. So. All right, Public Works. Mike is here with us. So we'll let's just keep going on a roll here. See if we can get through a few more items and we'll come back. Next item is the well house air conditioning. Kane, would you mind commenting there?
Yeah. Week during the warm spell, our one well house overheated, and there's no cooling in there. So fans is all we could do. So that prompted me to get to look into ACs for both well houses, just in case one's down for maintenance. Either one we would have cooling capabilities. So you'll see with the Haley quote here, there's a quote for each well house. And these are heat pump AC units, so they have electric heat as well. So we get the benefit of having an additional heat source for the heating months. And of course, the capability to cool in the summer. So. Any questions on the Haley quote?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why do you need the pump house, the well house to be cool?
So there's electronics in there, there's control panels, there's communication. Say they did overheat like that, and say some of the electronics started to malfunction, say the actual pump itself overheated and had a disaster, a meltdown, okay? That's why I like to cool them.
Thank you.
The Riverwood Hills well house was at 95. And so that's when we get an alarm. It comes in at 90 degrees, and that's when problems can start. And so especially if we had a fire, and we needed water, that well would run constantly, and that motor, any electric motor can generate heat. The problems just continue from there. So this is, it kind of checks all my boxes. Good for fire protection, good for longevity, good for when we're maintaining another well. Say we have to maintenance one of the wells, the other well will have to run constant. So having the capability to cool them, I think, is a benefit to the city, to all of our water users.
So right now, there's $40,000 in our water utility fund to cover repairs and maintenance. And this is a non-pump holding year. Typically, we pull the pumps, we think every 7 years.
Yep, every 7 years we'll pull the pumps and we'll do a complete rebuild, and that's standard, that's across the board. So this year we don't have that planned, so there is money available. So the total we're looking at is $13,336 for the one and $8,800 for the other one. The one quote for River Park well is a little higher because there isn't a 100 amp single phase panel. So that has to be added. So there's some additional electrical work that needs to be done. Haley has quoted the entire project, start to finish, both well houses, one-stop shop. That's what I like about their quote. They're big enough to do it, and they have the time, the manpower to do it, so.
It's 13,000, you said 15,000.
13,000 for the one, River Park, and 8,000 for Riverwood Hills. So,
$22,272.68 for both of them.
Can you say that one more time? 22,000.
$22,272.68.
Thank you.
You know how long it'll take them to do the work?
a couple days, probably a day at one and a day at the other.
You'll be able to get us on the books soon?
Yes,
Right.
that's what I want is,
Right.
and Haley's big enough to do that. They got the manpower, so.
All right, any other questions for Kane? Okay, anybody make a motion for the purchase? If not, I'll make,
I'll make a motion that we purchase both as quoted.
second,
Second.
Lori. Any other comments or discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Next item is a seasonal hire, additional employee for the Public Works. Do you want to comment on that? What's your-
Yeah, right now, the parks, there's a lot of maintenance, a lot of mowing. We took on the River Park drain field. Right now, 2 guys are mowing 3 days nonstop, and it just takes away from other things. We still have a water department to run. We still have locates to do. There's plenty to do here in the city. So getting another seasonal employee to help in the summer months, I think will benefit us greatly.
It's with people with Jim and Donnie mowing 3 days a week, this gives this seasonal employee the opportunity to help Kane out if something that needs to be done that through Monday, Wednesday, they need to have somebody from a safety standpoint, if nothing else, depending on what they're doing, to have them around. And without having this person, by the time Thursday and Friday comes around, and Friday's a short day, Jim and Dan tend to be really hurrying to get a lot of things done that they weren't able to get done earlier in the week. And with the seasonal person, that would help out that workflow, even it out, so.
So would the skill set be the same,
Uh,
or do you need a different skill set?
I guess it would match Donnie's position is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
That's what we're gonna post, I'd imagine. Okay.
The general description maintenance.
Yep, general groundskeeper, light custodial work, garbages,
So
weed whipper.
pretty much able to do about anything other than.
Yeah, I think somewhere in Donnie's title or in his description, it says, and anything else or something.
Okay.
So if this person was say to be hired 1 July, work through the end of October at, for 25 hours a week, at $14.
This one says 30, because it says 3 10-hour shifts.
Yeah, we found out from a para standpoint, we can't work past 25 hours.
Okay,
Without, this is with no benefits, just,
so
that's the
25
same thing as
hours.
Donnie's, 25 hours.
Okay, and then the pay rate would be, I would assume, the same as Donnie. So, or no, or has he been here a long time?
Donnie's
and-
been here long.
Donnie's been here
He's-
long.
Okay.
Same skill set, but not same wage.
Okay, so
Yeah.
not starting at the same wage, so that
Been here 3 years now, he's at $16 an hour.
he's at 16, okay.
So we're looking at that $14, $15 range. The $14 range at $25 or 25 hours at $14 for the balance of this year would be like $6,000. At $15 would be about $6,400.
I would prefer the 15 because I think it would make it more competitive. I think there are a lot of part-time jobs out there right now, and most people are increasing their part-time employment to $15 an hour. So I think it would make it more competitive.
I think so, I agree with that. And just for looking at budget purposes on 2022 at 25 at 15 for 26 weeks, which is May through October, it'd be like $99,750. So it's not a big, but there's a lot of benefit to get work done and to help out the workers. So
I think it's a good step in the right direction. I mean, even reading through the ordinance, the water, the sewer and that treatment plan and the work that the public works director is gonna have to be doing, he can't
it's
be
gonna be,
taking out garbage. So,
right. So I make a motion that we approve hiring a seasonal hire at 25 hours per week for $15 an hour,
second,
effective immediately. See if we can hire somebody through the end of October.
We'll get it posted here and maybe have some interviews the next week or two and bring it to maybe a special council meeting or the next council meeting, or how do you want to do that?
Well, we have a special council meeting probably here on the 21st. We're going to be discussing that a little bit later.
Okay.
So it gives you,
So maybe we can get that on the special council agenda.
Right.
We'll see.
I don't know if we really need to bring it back to council.
You shouldn't need to, you're approving it
Yeah,
now.
we're approving it now.
No,
so I
it's
think
done.
Perfect. We'll hire someone. We'll get someone hired.
We'll try and get it in the next Wednesday's paper.
Mhm.
Week from Wednesday.
Okay.
Okay, very good. All those in favor? Did somebody second it?
Dana,
Dana, okay. All those in favor, signify by
Aye.
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 Opposed? Say no. Great, thank you. Cameras for Orinoco Park Shower. There's a Orinoco Park Shower House and River Park too.
Yep, and River Park. So we have these trail cameras that are set up to monitor Alice Park and Orinoco Park, people coming in, people leaving, activity. They send a picture to my phone, they send it to my computer. Anybody can have the link if you want it, but it's really nice because we don't have to go to the trail camera and pull that SD card like the old style ones. Anyone's familiar with trail cameras? It's an awesome plan. It takes unlimited pictures for the year. There is $120 charge per camera per year. So $10 a month is what we're paying per camera. So it's been beneficial to us. We see when people are in there. People are in our parks in the middle of the night and things are damaged. And we got some,
It's documentation, really.
yeah. We can tell how many times the deputies pull through and
Timestamp.
how long they're there or not there. So the quote you see in front of you is for River Park and for another one at Orinoco Park that would be directed towards the shower house, the bathhouse. We have had some vandalism there in the past, and I think this is one way to,
So this would be replacing what is at River Park now.
right, the one at River Park now, we have to manually go there every week and pull this SD card, take it back to the shop, decipher the dates and the times and what happened, and this is just a much nicer.
And it's cloud storage, right? They store the pictures on the cloud.
Correct.
So you've
Right,
got
they don't disappear, and they don't
documentation.
disappear, they're there,
Nope,
okay,
It's unlimited photos.
that's nice. Yeah, I think that's important, especially with all those safety issues we were having with the parks with the big, and I know different towns have had a lot of vandalism in their buildings, so.
And we have installed black and white signs in River Park, Alice Park, and Orinoco Park, 2 locations. This place is under surveillance,
Oh, I haven't
so
seen
those
it yet.
signs are up now.
Good.
And hopefully that's a deterrent for any other illegal action, so.
One can help.
Mhm.
Well, I would like to make a motion to approve the cameras for our parks. It looks like up to $800.
I should do it.
Second.
Jim seconds, okay. Any other comments? Not all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Opposed, say no. That's approved. Concrete saw,
So right now, the city doesn't have a concrete saw or a cutoff saw. This saw can cut signposts, metal, it can cut concrete, asphalt. Every contractor out there has one, whether it's concrete, asphalt, water utility, you name it. I do have one at home and I have brought it in to use it. And I think this is a good time to purchase our own. The quote, I would just like to purchase the saw and the water kit, the first item there, $1,079. The other items listed there are just different blades. They make 100 different blades. So as you can see, some are more expensive, some are cheaper, but to simplify tonight's meeting and my request, I just want to buy the saw for $1079.99.
Does that come with one blade?
It doesn't, no, we have to purchase blades.
So shouldn't we include the blades in this
Well,
one?
I'm going to do some research, figure out which blades I want to buy. I don't need to buy the top of the line blade, and I don't need to buy the cheapest blade either, but I just want to do some research and I can make that, I can
Maybe,
spend up to $500
Yeah.
without
okay.
council approval,
All
so
right.
I'll buy a couple blades, maybe one for steel, one for concrete, one for asphalt.
I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase of the concrete saw for up to $1,100.
I second.
Jim seconds it. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? It's approved.
Last item on the docket here, gutters for both well houses. There aren't any gutters on the well house, it's kind of a pain getting in when it's raining, if it ever rains again. But anyway, I did receive one quote from Allcraft, that was $17.75. Since then, I got a quote from J&K Seamless for $1,100. And today I received one from Bauer Seamless for $1,000. And I still have one more, Curry, to come, that could come later this week. So I guess my request would be to go with Bauer for $1,000. That's gutters and downspouts at both well houses. That's the lowest bid so far, Bauer. And I've worked with him in the past. He put gutters on my house, so I feel confident with his product.
When could he start or do it?
Well,
This fall?
yeah, this year, for sure. It's a small job, so he can knock it out in a day. It's not gonna take too long, so.
I make a motion that we spend up to $1,000 to install gutters and downspouts on both well houses.
Second.
Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
Mike is here with us, and we've got three items for Joe that we could go through real quick, possibly. They're just quotes. Approving quotes that's been submitted. You want to do those three real quick, and then we'll go back and
That's just, yeah, it's just two
Put your
items.
mic on
in fact,
board.
Yeah, so, first item is that we solicited quotes and open quotes on Monday for crack filling, seal coating, and pavement marking striping. And those quote packages were divided into two parts. Part A is essentially crack filling and then seal coating. Part B is the striping. So we opened quotes. We got two quotes for, well, contractors were essentially able to bid either part A or part B or both part A and B. And so we got three quotes total. Not all contractors quoted both parts. And so ultimately, Pearson Brothers was the low quote for part A, the crack fill and seal coating. Their quote was $46,800. And AAA striping was the low quote for part B, the striping, at $4,263. So that totals $51,063.31.
Can you say that one more time? Just to have total.
$51,063.31.
Thanks.
So there is a letter, obviously, in a quote tabulation in your packet. So great quotes. We had originally estimated this work at about 70,000, about 20 grand under the quote, which is excellent. Both Pearson and AAA regularly do striping all over the state and have done work here in the past, and they're more than capable of doing a good job for the city of Orinoco. Would also mention that the striping or the seal coat quote does include a second sweeping that we kind of talked about. So that was an extra couple $1,000s, but so great quotes. If we want to do the work, the recommendation is to go ahead and award it to those two contractors that submitted the low quote for each of the individual parts.
so I make a motion that we approve Pearson Brothers to do the crack fill and seal coat for $46,800.31. And AAA striping, do the part B pavement marking for $4,263.
Second.
Jim seconds that. Timing on them? After Gold Rush, probably.
Up to the contractor, they just can't work during Gold Rush, is what we kind of told them. But my guess is it will be before Gold Rush.
Yeah, there's really
They seemed anxious to do the work.
nothing in downtown, so it's Cedar Woodlands or over on the West Center.
Right.
For 7th and 6th Street, so.
The only thing downtown could be potentially where we stockpile the rock. You know, we always kind of struggle to find a
You could charge
spot.
them lot rental from Gold Rush and they
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So,
Dig for gold in those rock piles.
but obviously based on their quotes, they're anxious to do the work, so.
Well, they're aware of Gold Rush, so they've done it before too, so. All right. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Retaining wall quotes.
All right, so today we opened quotes on the retaining wall. And so I did hand out a copy of the quote. We did have 5 contractors solicit quotes. The quotes were supposed to be submitted electronically by Quest CDN. We had a few contractors drop quotes off here. They submitted by the deadline, so we accepted them. So we had a total of 5 quotes. The low quote was Sunram Construction. They are out of the metro area. I have not worked with them. I did give them a call They've apparently been in business since 1983. They've been installing large block gravity walls since we started manufacturing them. You know, they have a lot of experience. That's all I can kind of tell you. Their quote was $128,651. That is over the estimate by about $18,000. But well under the other estimates, as you can kind of see, as the quotes range from 128,000 all the way up to 191,000. I did have, frankly, the contractor I expected to win it didn't even bid it here in Rochester. If you kind of look around, all but one is not local, so.
So Joe, and that's for the big block,
It is.
like by St. Mary's, the great big.
Yeah, there's a lot of different manufacturers, so within the construction documents, we pre-approved 3 different manufacturers of these structures because they're all a little different and there are different components, so we pre-approved them, so then the contractors can buy block from these people that were pre-approved or seek approval from other reputable contractors, but, so that's kind of how
But
it
it's
works.
a nice big one.
It is. So they're 4 foot, 48 inch by what, 18 inch, if I remember correctly.
It's interesting, just looking at the spreadsheet, just a quick comment, the block wall itself, their bid was 76,700. And the others were all within 100, they varied from 104,000 to 110,000. So there must have been a common supplier.
Well, yeah, and people kind of play games with different cost. If you look at the mobilization, for example, that varies from 25,000 to 1,000.
Yep.
The one thing that kind of struck me as pricey is the $15,000 fence on top of the wall. It's a little under 15, 14,687. Maybe we can look at options to have somebody else do that or build that ourselves or something. It's just, the fence has to be there. It's expensive.
But
That's
it's
my only
just,
comment.
it's still,
Less than the others.
well, there's only one that was less.
Yeah, everybody, it's just expensive, but it's 235 feet of chain link fence. It just seems expensive to me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
How's Kane at putting chain link fence?
I know a guy. So anyway, maybe Kane and I can look at that item. We could always pull it out of the contract if you guys want to do the project. I should say, we bid this today. We opened bids at 10 o'clock today. You guys are just seeing this. You don't have to award this tonight if you don't feel comfortable awarding it. I know it is over the estimate. It's about 18% over the estimate. But if you want to do it and you want to get it moving forward, we can certainly award it too. He said that, I did talk to the contractor too about his availability, and he indicated that he's booked out at least a month and a half. So if we, it'd be the end of July before he's gonna get started.
It's still earlier than I thought it would be because everything is so booked.
And that's what he's saying right now.
So how long was it out for bids? Couple weeks? Do you think
Yeah, it
you
was
got
out.
enough in?
Yeah, I think we did. We got 5 competitive quotes. I
You said it
talked,
was 2 weeks?
yeah, like 12 days or something like that. But long enough to, we had interest. People were calling, asking questions. People that wanted to submitted.
Did he say how long it would take him to complete?
He didn't. I would guess a couple weeks.
So of course, our first thought is Gold Rush. Would they be willing to be either finished by then or halt?
Yeah, they have to work around Gold Rush, so they can start before it, but the week of Gold Rush, they have to clean up and.
It'd be great if it was done by then.
Yeah, it would be nice,
That would.
It would.
but
They Yeah, you obviously haven't talked with any of these, right? To understand, what they're, did you say they're out a month? Maybe I missed that.
Yeah, he said he couldn't start till the end of July if
Oh,
we,
okay.
he just booked out that far.
Normally something like this doesn't take that long. Yeah.
We called him because I've never worked with him and I just wanted to be able to at least provide
Yeah.
some semblance of assurance that they're, and obviously they filled out all the paperwork, they filled out the responsible contractor information, they are bonded,
Yeah.
there's pay bonds and performance bonds and, there's,
I don't think they can do work with the city if they're not.
That-
I don't
No,
know. They can't.
There's all these people providing performance bonds, so. I make a motion that we approve the contract with Sunram Construction for $128,651.50.
Second.
Any other comments?
Should we put something in there about the fence?
I think that if you want me to work on the fence number or Kane and I to work together and see if we can come up with a more cost-effective solution, I think you can just tell us to do that. It's the last thing that will go in.
Right.
We can, it's a line item contract, so you pay for things on a unit price as they're installed, so.
The only, I can appreciate your comment that it's one of the lowest unit price per foot too.
It is.
And if we were to go with somebody else, then we're dealing with schedules of getting the fence on there. And that could be several months out before we get that done. So we don't want an unprotected wall either, so.
And we could, that's true, you have that whole coordination thing, and if it's one contractor, it's his problem to coordinate and get done, and then if we bring somebody else in, then it's our problem.
Because when the wall's done, then you know it's gonna be done.
Right.
And so you're probably looking at temporary fence or something to protect it, and it can be kind of a pain.
Then we don't have to go look
Who seconded
for more
that?
bids.
Lori, thank you.
Sorry.
Any other comments? Not all those in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No? Just an FYI on the speed table, there was a quote in your packet, estimated project quote, not a quote.
Yeah, I kind of penciled out the cost for a 24-foot wide by 34-foot long.
36, yeah.
Yeah. Speed table, and obviously there's signage involved with that. It would be a concrete pavement, and you've got to kind of protect the city against the liability of people bottoming out with certain types of vehicles, and so it amounts to a little bit more than you might think. And the other problem with these types of things is it's just small quantities of stuff, and that costs money just to get contractors that are capable of doing the work there. So it's a little over 20 grand to do that stuff. It's expensive. Is there some benefit? Certainly, but
This is one of the alternatives we asked you to do for us, so we'll just keep this in our back pocket, so when you get to that point of deciding what we're gonna do, we have some background information, so. All right, thank you, Joe. Okay, Mike, thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Just
So
starting
let's go
late.
back and look at our sewage disposal ordinance 2021-06. This is the first reading. That means there's no decision-making done tonight. Share any comments that you might have, if you haven't already. I know Lori's provided some comments to Mike and Joe.
I could just make a few comments there. Nothing much, but, so we did look at a number of cities to draft this. I mean, maybe 30 cities, and every city that has a sewer system has a sewer ordinance. Many of them are similar to this. Some smaller cities have less sophisticated ordinances, I would say, but I also think those were drafted a very long time ago. And we wanted to have a comprehensive ordinance that, you know, to get the funding for this project, the various funding pieces, there's certain things you have to have in it that are required, and then you would want those things anyway in your ordinance. But then we wanted to make sure it was a comprehensive ordinance. It's very long, obviously, so Lori brought up some good questions. She found one typo that we'll fix. You can change things between the first and second reading. One interesting thing I think is your code sort of has a strange ordinance adoption procedure in the code where it sort of says there's 2 readings, but then with the discretion of the council, you can do away with the second reading. But for this ordinance, we just decided that it's a long ordinance, and, you know, this way you have, you know, this is tonight, you have 6 more days now, so you can email me and we can make changes, you know, minor changes between now and then. So there was a typo, and then Lori also brought up some good points. I reread it, read her email originally and thought, and it was related to section 51.
821.
Yeah, or 21.
The note about that one too.
Related to kind of the requirements to connect to the system. And so I think we are going to, the whole purpose of her question essentially in a nutshell was, why is there different amounts of days for notice provisions versus requirements to connect provisions? And the theory behind that, when I thought through that, I thought, well, you know, if city staff is going to send these notices on the exact day that connection becomes available, that's fine. We can do that. But what if city staff can't, you know, there are a lot of letters possibly, and they want to send a notice out and don't want to give them some time. And so what's a reasonable amount of time? That coupled with the winter season, you know, if people are not going to use the services of the city's contractor to connect, you know, they can't construct it during the winter. So you want to have at least a number of months where, because we don't know when this project is going to get finished, because you have to wait until the sewer mains are completed. And I think you said it's October, which is pretty much the worst month to finish it if you're going to make people connect, because that's right before the winter. So we wanted to pick a number of months. So now I've considered reworking this section just a little bit to just basically make the notice provision and the 1-year deadline the same. And so what that will mean is you get your project done on October 1st. If you don't send the notices out on October 1st, you might not send them until November 1st. The 1-year start will start from November 1st. So you might lose a month of fees or 2 months of fees, but realistically, I mean, you're talking about just the people who aren't connecting, which in theory, if things go the way they're supposed to go, will be a very small amount. You know, it might be 10 letters we send out. So, and 10 fees that we miss out for a month or 2. So I think that would simplify it, and it would just be, you know, 1 year for everything. You know, we basically have a year to connect from the date you get a notice letter. And then it'll be up to the staff to just, you know, and Joe, because, you know, the engineer is going to be determining when it's complete, the project is complete, and there'll be some coordination there, but I do think you need to build in some due process before you start charging the fee. The other issue with that is, this gets back to the Dick Nelson wall or refusal to connect to the water system issue. So there's extra due process at that point, but you shouldn't confuse that though. He's not paying the fees, and then the fees get assessed to his taxes. So that's a separate process. So there are other people that pay the fee. I'm aware of, I asked this question, there's a couple other people who have not yet connected to the water system that just choose to pay the fee. Nelson's one that doesn't pay the fee, and then you've got to assess, and then that's why we send the assessment notices separately. So anyway, that's a long-winded way to say we're just going to change this very minor, and then there's a, yeah.
Can you talk about the 51021A? And I don't want to open the emails up, and there's a lot going back and forth, but
Right.
what I don't understand is, and I read it so many times and I still don't understand. It says after January 2024, the city is not going to issue any certificates of occupancy for newly constructed residential structures or buildings located within 500 feet of any municipal sewer main. What does that mean? Why would we not,
I just have a question mark on my notes.
why can't we
Oh.
issue?
I think I made a mistake there. So I think that's only if they don't connect.
Yeah, like that makes sense.
I think the intent there is
Yeah.
if you,
Yeah,
if you want to build a new house and you're within an area that can feasibly connect to the sewer,
Yep.
you have to connect to the sewer. And if you fail to connect to the sewer, the city won't issue your,
But can't, I mean, I think the language has to be
Different.
very
It does.
clear
you're
on
right.
that, because
You caught it.
it's
So-
telling everyone that we're just not gonna issue any
Right.
certificates of
Right.
occupancy, no matter what,
It-
if you're
yeah.
located this close to a water main.
Mhm.
And you don't connect. So that's what it should say, and you don't connect. So in other words, you can't get a certificate of occupancy until you connect,
Until you can-
if you're located within those number of feet after that date. So there needs to be an extra comma and clause there that further limits that to just people who are refusing to connect, basically.
So
So that's a good catch. So I will,
should, instead of saying if you don't, should we say after January 1, 2024, certificates of occupancy for newly constructed, within this, will only be issued to those who connect
Correct.
to.
I'm gonna work on it, so it sounds good. Yeah, that's a positive statement instead of a
Yes,
negative statement.
yes.
So that was a good catch. So that was a catch. The differing in the notices, dates, and I think so the way I'm gonna handle that, and anybody has an opinion can say it now, but is just to take out subsection C altogether, just delete it. And then include, and I sent this language to Lori as proposed language, but kind of late in the day. And basically say, where it says, as determined by the city engineer, that would be deleted. And it would say, 1 year from the date that a notice to connect is delivered by US mail, regular US mail to the property owner. So they would be coextensive. It would be a year from the date you can connect, and then a year from the date you get the notice. So if the notice is later, then it'll be more than a year. And that's why I wanted, the whole purpose of C was to avoid that, because I was worried about that. But the more I thought about that was, how many of these are there really gonna be? I mean, it's somewhat unique because you're building a brand new structure, all the other codes, they've had sewer systems and then they're revising their city code to adopt it, but they already have everybody's already connected. So this whole section is kind of specific to Orinoco.
So that time period, and we talked about this in the sewer committee too, at one time. The 1 year period versus 18 months.
Well, that,
18 months
yeah.
because of 2 construction seasons.
yeah, and we can do that. I mean, I'm open to comments here. So I saw that and I said, well, okay, let's do it this way. Let's do it a year plus do a parallel 6-month period from the date you get notice, which might be 2 months after you could be able to connect, which would make it 14 months, or something like that. So
So is this one thing that they suggest that we might change something, but is
Oh,
it
you
something
can.
that could be dependent on when the actual construction is completed, that we can go in and change the ordinance? Is that too late?
no, you can always change the ordinance. The
Does that
reason,
might give us a different flavor
Yeah.
for one good season, or we do really
Sure.
need an 18-month time
yeah,
period?
or like the January 21, 2024. I reread that after Lori sent the email and I'm like, well, how? That's odd. What if things get delayed? What if we don't have the sewer system? But then I thought to myself, well, then we'll just go amend it and make it January 1, 2025. So you always can amend the ordinance. The reason we had to do this on a rush job basically is because it has to do with the funding. Joe knows more about it, but you had to get it done by June 30th. That's why this is.
I have one other question real quick. We talked about phase 1A, which is all the hash. And yet we have areas in here that could connect possibly. But we don't reference phase 1A in any of our ordinance anyplace.
Right.
I realize it's for the whole thing, but when you talk about 500 feet within there might be places where you are within 500 feet that.
Well, you asked that of Joe. He said there might be a couple, but not many, right?
well, I think
Oh, I
that
was
one of the
thinking
things that
these
Mike and I talked about adding was, if you're within 500 feet or you've been provided a sewer service as part of a municipal sewer improvement project. So that would cover all of phase 1A.
So, I mean, that language I didn't just make that up. That was in a lot of other city codes. again, they're not building brand new sewer systems like you are.
Right.
So, yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's just odd to me that if the property, and this is just my brain thinking about this project, but if the property is within 500 feet and they can connect, why aren't they in phase 1A?
Well, there's a few.
There's several reasons.
That condition exists.
Mhm.
The condition, it exists on Center Street, for example, you know, we kind of said everything north of Center Street's in phase 1A, everything south is in phase 1B. Well, you know, but what we're really talking about is any new houses. And so there aren't new houses being constructed on West Center Street, but there are houses within 500 feet of it, so it wouldn't apply. Now, Mike and I also talked about the language of, you know, if you've been provided a sewer service as part of a municipal project, you have to connect. And so if, you know, we're putting a service in, they need to connect.
Well, and that, yeah, okay, so maybe we need to rethink that a little bit. If anybody wants to read that and has comments between now and next Monday, I'm willing to take those. I'll think through that. I mean, it just seems to me that the 500 feet that other cities use isn't really the relevant, you know, triggering condition where you have to connect, I think.
I like that, what you said, and the service has been provided.
Well, there's two conditions, right? One
Right.
is you have an existing house. If you have an existing house and we've provided you a service, you need to connect. The second condition is if you have a vacant lot and you're within an area that has sewer service, well, we may or may not have provided you with a sewer service because, well, maybe you can split your lot, for example, and you didn't petition the city for a second service. Well, you go ahead and you split your lot. I'm gonna build a septic on mine. No, you can't. You're within 500 feet of.
But that's in here, that septics are not to be built.
Right.
That's in here in a different place. That's not.
Right, but we're all, you know, it kind of builds on that. So in that instance, you develop that lot, you build a new home within an area that is within 500 feet of a city sewer. You need to construct a service to that lot and service it via municipal sewer. So there's really two conditions that I think we're really dealing with. One is, you know, existing houses that we're providing a service to, and then the second is, well, new houses within a area that we've invested in infrastructure to serve.
So Joe, are we saying that their lot is within 500 feet or their home is within 500?
I think the home,
Okay,
you know, because conceivably you could have a huge lot, right?
right.
It says building or structures located within 500 feet. So that's the way it's written, at least. I don't know if that's not the intent, but.
And the 500 feet is kind of an arbitrary number. It's deemed feasible to extend, you know, sewer different ways that far. That's a long way. You know?
Yeah.
But it was in other ordinances. Other people are using that number. Mike and I didn't just make that up, but you know,
So-
could it be 300 feet, I suppose?
Yeah, but I mean, the newly constructed buildings, there's this January 21, 2024 date, right? So that, you know, you only have to connect if number one, it's after that date. And it's a new house, not a existing house. And you're within 500 feet. So if all three of those conditions qualify, then you have to connect. That's what that's supposed to say, and it doesn't say, but we'll amend it. So I get that. I think I need to think through it a little bit more. I mean, this is an important section, obviously. The mayor, I think the main points that I think through are these are good issues. You know, we want to make sure that it's written correctly for the Orange. Now, not for, you know, this was largely based on Mankato, some on Rochester, but this is Orinoco. I mean, I don't want to just copy other people's ordinance. I want to make sure it fits.
They may copy us.
They might, I hope they do. Well, and yeah, so I guess we'll look at that. Joe and I are gonna have a phone call about that whole section, and we'll just try and look at that and make sure either we change it or we have an answer for you as to why we didn't change it. And I think the most important thing is this: to get the funding, it's gotta be adopted before June 30th. You can, you know, you have the legislative authority to change it after June 30th. You could do amend it right away at the July meeting or the August meeting. They're not building this facility for a number of years.
So we need to do it just to get it out
Correct.
for funding purposes, but we can always go back and.
Multiple times you could go back, and that gets into the fees. I guess that's the next thing I want to just briefly touch on. There's no fees in here. So every city that I've worked in has a fee ordinance. You have a section in your code that basically says what a fee ordinance is you put all your fees in an ordinance. And then it just lists the fees in an ordinance, like the ATV fee, the sewer fee, the water fee, the whatever other fee.
Fee sheet.
So we have a fee schedule.
Yeah.
We
But it's
call
not
it a
an
fee schedule, but
ordinance.
it's not an ordinance.
It's in resolution. So the leagues, the
In the
league.
past, we've just done a motion, but it needs to be a resolution.
It should be written down, but the league advises that if people default on these fees, it's easier, you have more legal authority to collect. This is the way I read it. I didn't fully research it yet, but, because I assumed we would just do a fee ordinance, and then it would render that research moot, but you have more legal authority if it's an ordinance, and I think most cities, it might be the time to adopt a fee ordinance. So, and that's not a terribly large project. If you have your fees written down somewhere, you just recodify them in an ordinance. Your ordinance, chapter 33, it already has an allowance to do this. You just haven't done it. It says the city may, and you just haven't used that. So, and then what most cities do is they just amend that once a year. So you set your fees for the next year, like in September, or October, or November. The way I've seen it done is, staff, it's a council member or a staff person would say, I think this needs to change. I've looked at these 10 other cities, we're 1/3 on average, we need to increase this, and then they bring it to council.
Typical thing we change is the water fees.
Well, that, yeah,
And
there's
if
some,
there's anything else, but typically it's the
Correct.
water rate.
yeah, and it'd be like, it could be anything, it could be like park pavilion rental fees. I mean, there's a million fees some cities have, and you just want to look at them once a year. And then if you make a habit of doing it once a year, and most cities don't change most of them. It's like 10% or less get changed in
So
most of the
getting
cities.
back to this ordinance,
Yeah.
we don't have our fees in it currently.
Correct.
So tonight, what we need to do is vote to pass this ordinance.
No, this is just a first
This
reading.
is the first
So we're
reading.
gonna do
Come
that
back
next
on the
week.
special meeting.
We'll come
I'd
back.
like to come on. And we just talked about that very briefly. We talked about Monday, June 21st at 6:30. It's a Monday evening.
Right, I can be there. I'll make it.
Is that okay with everybody?
What's the date?
Next Monday.
June 21st,
I'm gonna be on travel on the 21st.
I can't be,
that week?
yeah, we're on vacation that week.
Well, you could do it the following week. I think there's 2 days left in the month.
Sure, yeah.
28th and the 29th. Is that, and that's cutting it close, but
28th was better. Behind you, Robin, you can
Yeah,
remember.
yeah. So if there's any changes out of that meeting, there could be.
You can always amend after.
You guys amend after. I'm gonna make a couple of the changes like Lori's typo and then kind of change that. I think we've kind of decided to change the notice period and just that section 51021. It's not gonna be many. This is pretty much it. It's 99, 98% of this. And then what I'll do is I'll send out a marked up red line version just so you can see what I've changed before the meeting, but it won't be in the packet, just so you can see it.
Okay.
So I have notes,
Sure.
but should I email them to
Yeah.
you then instead of talking about it now? I thought we were
Well,
talking about it.
No, we should talk about it. I mean, if
Okay.
you want to change something, I think, you can't just direct me to change something.
No,
So-
but I mean, we could also talk about it at that next.
Right, but it's got to be adopted that night because
Yeah.
there's no time left.
Okay.
That's kind of why we're doing it this way is so so why don't you, if you can, I won't talk, I'll just write down what you said.
The 51 .024, I wonder if we should include something in there because it's, closing the private wells. Is that something all abandonment must be done? It doesn't say anything about whose responsibility it is to pay for that. Should we include something like that? Should we include that it's at the homeowner's expense? Or, no?
Yeah, I think, I just read it. I think that's implied. I mean, you could say, right after this first sentence, must be closed by the property owner, comma, unless permitted through the State Department of Natural Resources or by the owner of the well, something like that. But I think that's implied. You know, we don't have any legal authority to go on people's private property and touch their stuff. If this is if this is the rule.
But I feel like some people also are going to say you're forcing us to do this.
But
We have the authority, can do that.
Yeah, and we're also giving them, people, the option to keep it if they want to use it to like water their lawn too. We had talked about that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you do have that ability.
You have that option.
You know, there's a few things with that. You have to get a permit from the county to do that. And the well has to meet code. And so there'd have to be an inspection. The well has to be cased and sealed and frankly, the annual permit cost, it would cost you more money to have the well than it would probably cost you to buy the water unless you use an inordinate amount of water.
So is that something we need to put in?
I can put it in by the owner of the private.
Well, no, I mean, even what he's saying or what Jim and Joe are saying is if it needs to be.
I guess so there's gonna be an allowance for people to keep it?
I forgot about
And
that.
would that be discretionary or?
Well, this is talking about water for human consumption and that's not water for. human
Oh, well,
consumption.
is that, I don't remember seeing that in here.
Okay, so there's separate wells that are not, we did, I remember
Yeah,
talking
any
about that.
private wells serving a residence or building with water intended for human consumption.
Right.
So you can use that well for irrigation purposes,
Mhm.
but not human consumption, and it can't be plumbed into your house.
And,
Right.
so we don't need to include anything like that in here.
Well,
think
I
it-
think we do because it's a well on their property, right? Because it could be their existing well.
So from what I remember just from going through this process and going to I thought everybody had to cap their wells. That was what I thought. Like,
That's essentially true, unless you want to go through the process of acquiring the permit and disconnecting everything.
but
Very
should
few
that be in
people,
here somewhere?
I thought it was.
I don't remember seeing it, but I might have missed it because I got a little bleary-eyed reading this.
So the issue, in case we can't figure it out right now, I'll look into the ordinance, but you want to make sure that you just want to know whether or not the ordinance includes a provision that allows people to keep, I'll call them additional wells, in addition to the water service they get from the city water
Keep their existing well.
existing, but a well that's not used for their house. It would only be outdoor wells.
Non-human consumption.
Well, I mean, I don't really know if that's accurate. So like, it's not plumbed into your house, but you can't really regulate what people consume. So I think the intention is it's not used for that, but I thought we talked about that. Didn't we talk about that?
yeah, I think I sent you some language in the old,
Yeah.
that
Yeah, I know we-
water service connection requirement for property owners that we sent out
And you
Yeah, I
want,
thought
12 years ago.
Yeah, they had to have something in that said, hey, I want to keep my well, whatever you called it, like a petition or. I forget
There's
what it was.
there's a permit process that
Yeah.
you work through Olmsted County and the health department.
so we removed
that
most of
isn't
that
even
chapter. So I'm just taking this to mean that you want to do that. You want to allow people to do that if they choose to spend.
Sure.
Maybe that is in here now that you just said that.
I mean, I just remember it. That's why I just.
Olmsted County, now that you said you have to go through
Well, I think
Olmsted
it's in the
County.
septic. I thought it was in the septic, at the very end of the ordinance, the whole ordinance.
Okay, I probably have a note about that too.
Whatever clarification I think would help city staff going forward.
Right.
Because I will tell you, I know,
Try to remember everything.
Oh, no, I'm
and
sorry.
I know Pine Island allowed it when they did theirs too.
Yeah, it's all coming back to me now that you just said that too.
I just remember it because I thought that was a strange provision. I had read through it. I'll find it. If it's in here, what I might do is just email you and say, this is
Yeah,
it, is this what you
perfect.
mean?
I probably did see it, so.
Anything else, Dana?
Yeah. I feel bad because I
No, it's
thought
good.
we were, so could you just explain why in the 51-005, I wrote, why would there be private service lines and grinder stations? Like, why would
51-005.
there be private ones? Why wouldn't they be? No, it's not. Something over here.
No, it's it.
Van or something.
005, I'm not seeing
51.005. Ownership of municipal utilities.
1005? Oh,
51 dash 00 or.
In the beginning.
Yeah, it's at the beginning,
okay.
Shortly after definition.
right?
Oh, it's over here, I'm sorry. Under one stack.
It says, there to except for private service lines, extension of grinder stations, and I'm wondering why would we allow people to,
So to answer that question, there are people that have private grinder stations
okay,
that we don't own, that we didn't construct.
okay,
That we don't want to take responsibility for. They're on private property, people have a grinder station. When their lot was developed, their system pumps through a small diameter force main to a gravity system. That's their baby. I don't think we want to take on the responsibility of that, frankly, mess.
perfect. I just didn't, okay, so they're for existing.
Right.
Nothing,
So-
nothing in the future that can be, like, nothing in the future that somebody can throw in their own grinder station.
Well, they can't. I mean, if they refuse the city's contractor, they could build their own. I mean, they could say, we refuse and we charge them a fee for 10 years and then they sell their house and the new people say, okay, we'll hire a contractor and do it. They own that. I mean, it's, yeah, so in the, this ordinance, I don't think it was ever the intent to say you must allow the city to do it because I don't think you can legally do that.
But
We're
you can
just,
still charge them a fee as long as they're getting one put in.
yeah, they can do that, but I think that there's financial incentive to not do that. I think you've set this system up to greatly encourage people to use the city's contractor. And then if they don't, they can do that, but it's in the FAQ that was sent out. There's an FAQ paragraph about this that Joe wrote that's basically, if you choose not to grant us our easement and maintenance agreement, you can choose that. You will be required to put this in, it'll cost, and he gave an estimate, it was expensive. And if you don't do that, we will charge you a fee, which is now in the ordinance. So there's so much incentive, but yeah, they could build their own and maintain their own. If they don't grant us an easement, we won't have any right to maintain it or build it, which might happen. I mean, I assume it will probably happen with at least a couple people.
Yeah. I just think if someone says, hey, I can get it cheaper, but follow your specs.
Well, that was the other thing, Jim, is, the system is kind of set up so that the pumps perform and are configured at a certain threshold. And
Right.
if we have one weak point, then it puts
Yeah.
them at jeopardy.
Yeah, and I totally understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, it only
So they
makes
have
sense to
to
do it, but
Follow
I
the
think you'll have some.
specification that
I
we
will.
set forth. They can use somebody else, they can do it themselves, but the pumps have to meet a minimum
Yeah,
standard, if you will.
And be approved by the city.
makes sense.
This is something that I should already know, but I don't. But the 51.008 billing payment and assessment, and this is for you guys too, like if the service charge is just one day delinquent and the 10% is added,
Let me just read it.
that's what's in the ordinance. Is that what our current?
Second paragraph from the bottom.
They're due on the
Last sentence.
28th, otherwise they get a penalty and a late fee.
Okay, starting the day,
Most all towns have something
just
like
one
that.
day though.
So some have a grace period, other cities do. I mean, I think that's a
I
discretionary
think 1
thing.
day is pretty stringent.
I know, but that's what kind of I was,
Some could be on vacation and.
I know. And
I
is it
think
ten
there's gotta be
percent,
more.
and is it a 10% fee? I don't think it's a 10% fee.
I don't think it's 10%.
That's why I don't think this
There's a
is,
penalty and a late fee.
there's a, yeah, so I don't think
No.
that this
It's like
is.
15, 14, I
No,
think, or something.
Yeah.
We have a
I-
high late fee, it's kind of ridiculous, but,
Yeah,
I don't think that this is in. It doesn't
Alignment.
fit with everything else. I think that whatever this says should fit with whatever we do with the rest of the
Right.
city,
I
so.
was thinking of the shut off too. Like generally cities do not shut your water off the day you miss your payment. That'd be very, draconian, not
This
right.
late fee things is an issue that, when you get your water receipt, it's due upon when you receive it. And people have 28 days to pay it off. And yes, you're on vacation, but really,
Well, many people
it's
do.
really, you're made to pay when you get it. And you're told that on the statement, and that's just, if it's your risk, if you're late to the end of the month. Now you can set up automatic payments, you can do a lot of different things to make sure you don't get penalized too, so I don't.
Yeah, I think the issue is if you have a grace period, people know that, then that's the new.
Well, whatever wording is here, it needs to match what we do for all of our other,
That's I agree.
and I don't think this does.
No, that's fine, yeah.
So we
then
need to change
you
that.
guys-
Make it, yeah.
You gotta
yeah.
tell me what you do then. and
Right.
it
Yeah, so
doesn't really-
that's you guys to work with him on that.
Mhm.
Yeah, the software spits out that dollar figure, but I don't know what that
It's
percent
like
is.
1541 or something like that, the penalty in the late fee.
It's
And so you're talking about like your existing water, the way you do your existing water
Yeah.
bills and
Right.
Exactly.
other municipal utilities. Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Mhm. The 51-032. Okay, next. The connection charge, I guess what I was wondering, is there gonna be one connection charge? Are we going to charge something different for gravity, people with it's all the
I don't
same?
think you can legally do that.
So it's all just the same, okay.
Yeah, I think it's just a fee. If you start singling people out based on what type of property they have, I don't think there's a legal basis for that.
Okay. That was just my own. So 51-055, I was confused by this wording because it talks about how people need to complete surface restoration at the owner's expense, but I thought, so I think that this is referring to easements, right? Or excavation and construction requirements, no?
I think this is about water services.
Okay,
55.
both, where did I go? 55.
So this is
Oh, the surface street, this is about the street.
yeah,
So I guess what I'm under is that when you say owner,
so,
property owner's expense, so they're going to be assessed for the street?
yeah, so the individual water and the individual sewer line that goes from the main to your house is the property owner's, it's their obligation. And so if we install a water service and a sewer service to the property line, you extend it to the house, well, you technically have financial responsibility for it. And so let's say in 5 years, it breaks. And it breaks in the street. It's the property owner's obligation to dig down, identify the problem and fix it. And it's also the property owner's obligation then to repair the street. And this kind of says how that needs to be done.
How?
So when I
Explain
read
how you can do
this,
'Cause
I,
I don't own the street.
You do own the street. You do own the
I
street.
do.
So that's the confusion. Everybody's always confused about that. But your lot line actually goes, the city does not own the streets. They have a right of way over the streets.
Yeah.
And so the property owner on either side owned the middle of the road. And so that's the basis for this. And really it gets into when there's cold weather and the pipe burst, the question is always this: where did the pipe burst? Did it burst in the main or did it burst outside of the main? And basically this covers the city. I mean, this is standard. I mean, you've never had a sewer system, so you don't know this, but this is the way it works, is the owners pay. Now, the good thing with your system is that it's brand new, so they're not likely to burst in cold weather. Like you get old cities like Winona, where sometimes these 100-year-old houses didn't have the pipes dug down far enough, and it happens a lot when you get cold weather.
so but then this makes me, because repairs is up here and then it's excavation and construction requirements, it almost seems like it's not under repairs. and you're talking about repairs, so what it seems to me is that this almost looks like it's part of the job of the property owner to pay for the initial construction and excavation of their street,
Instead of having it
Ins-
under repairs.
instead of being under the repairs. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, let me just think about it for a second.
That's how I read it. So I didn't read it as it being part of repairs. I read it as being part of the original cost.
I concur. I think some of that is a little bit confusing, and then you go back and you start looking at the headings and figuring out where you're at, what you're really talking about. And it is a little.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, how do I put this? You have an oddly, you know, when we copy an ordinance or we're drafting an ordinance, we have to put it in the system, the structure and the formatting of what you currently have in your code. So no other city has a one like yours, or, I mean, maybe they do, but it's not exactly common. So I'll look at that for the whole ordinance, basically reorganizing things.
Okay.
I think, to be perfectly honest, those could all be one section, probably.
Sure.
Repairs, excavation and construction
I
requirements.
mean, it could even just include in the actual section, repair, the word repair, not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then that would just answer anything like that.
Yeah.
So I do have a question on this whole thing breaking out the street, and I really question whether residents know that if a water line breaks out in the street, that it's up to them. So what happens if it breaks coming across down a lot line? So I've got an acreage. If it breaks up the street, I have to pay that, and I have to pay to tear the street up.
If it's in front of your house.
So not the mains, just the individual service, and that's, and I'm talking about the pipe that serves your house, and
Okay.
only your house.
That I
If it's the
understand.
main, it's the city's
Okay,
problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't understanding
Yeah.
that. So the drop coming off the main, I understand, that's
Yeah,
mine.
just the pipes that serve your individual house.
The laterals, so that's what I was
Okay,
getting
okay.
to, the debate
So the way the
between
water valve
where
is
to
at,
break.
for your individual line, at least in the case of River Park, it comes in, it's on the edge of the right of way next to your property line. That's where my main valve is at.
Right.
But between the main valve in my yard and where it comes off of the T, wherever it's at, the property owner is responsible for the opposite side of my property for repairing it.
The opposite side, what do you mean by the opposite
On
side?
the other side of the valve?
Yeah, on the street side of the valve that's in my yard, that's where my turnoff is at.
Right.
From there it goes to my house. That's what the
Okay.
contractor put in.
Right.
So from the main line, wherever the water is at, someplace out there,
All the lateral pipe you are.
it comes in to my curb stop. So from what I call the curb stop,
Yeah.
so from there towards the street,
Toward the main.
that's my responsibility. Even though
If there's a
I
break
only
there.
put the line in from here to the house.
Right.
Right.
Yep, so it's all the way to the main, from the main to the house after it's fully
So from the
constructed.
main
Yep.
Through the curb stop or through the valve to my property is all mine.
Yep.
But I had responsibility with my contractor to put this line in from my shut-off valve
On
to
private
the
property,
house.
yes.
Right,
I didn't have anything to do with this one, so why do I have to pay for that?
that's where I'm at.
It's in the,
Well-
it's in the public right of way. I mean, so we have the,
It's in the public right of way and it's solely constructed to serve your house. So you're the only person that benefits from that pipe,
Why
right?
wouldn't we go back to the contractor and pay, he has to pay?
Well, there is a
it was
warranty,
defective, sure.
but that warranty is only a finite period.
This isn't gonna break. I mean, not likely gonna break, or unless there's an earthquake or something.
We never
But-
know.
That's commonly how it's done. I mean,
That's
it-
always how it's done. I mean,
Yes.
Okay,
every time this happens, when there's a frozen water pipe,
Follows me too.
they come in and we have this exact same conversation. And it doesn't happen often. There was like a bad winter like 5 years ago and nobody could understand this, but yeah.
so when Bob Decklever had a same situation, the contractor from the valve in the street in the cul-de-sac off of Forest View Lane, the contractor put in, he put in a loop, But the contractor says the person that put in the street went below the 7 feet level in Greater Dolphin, so. So it froze up in this loop, so they had to insulate the loop and.
Yep.
So did Deckel ever pay for that one?
Let's get back to this ordinance.
I'm sorry.
That's late.
Mayor,
You can
use
ask
your
them.
gavel.
On yourself.
On
No.
myself.
I do think it's important that we understand,
No, it
you
is,
know,
and
because it's part of this.
I believe you have enough background to put some language in
That's
there.
just part of having a sewer system, is the bottom line. That's,
Yeah.
you get a benefit, you get some responsibilities, just like anything else.
all right, couple more questions and I'm done, I promise, sorry. 51-061. Can you just explain to me the sixth, and this might be this is obviously something that happened I think a while ago, so I wasn't part of council, but there's a $6,200 amount for a meter because of resolution 913. I just was hoping someone could.
What's the section?
51.061. I was hoping someone could shed some light on that number and that situation.
Well, that's just estimated assessment fee.
So that's basically saying if you have a parcel that wasn't served with an individual water service as part of the 2009 water improvement, and you develop that parcel and then decide that you want water service, your connection charge will be $6,216 because you didn't pay for any of the improvement like everybody else did back in 2009. So that assessment's not only for your service, but for the water tower and the wells and the trunk mains and all the good stuff that serve you. And so it's essentially if you develop a lot that can be served by that investment, that 2009 investment, well, then you've got to, at that point in time, pay your fair share of that. And at that time, it was decided that that was the amount.
Okay.
So that's essentially carryover from the old water ordinance.
And I suppose if the property's on the assessment roll for that assessment, you wouldn't be able to, I think they would have to pay that amount if they were in that project area. I mean, I don't think you can go and take them out at this point.
Well, it's a connection fee at this point, so
Okay.
Okay.
it's a little some payment.
And are there any parts of town that this is possible?
Well, sure, if if you have a large lot, for example, the same scenario that we
So
have.
we're split, like your
Yeah.
lot, okay.
You have a
And then-
large lot downtown and
Okay.
you paid one assessment and that serves your hot house, and now you've got a second lot with a brand new house on it. Well, that parcel
You're gonna
needs
pay
to
what
pay
you would have
its,
paid at the time.
yes.
Thank you.
So how does that affect the 109 new users that we're setting an assessment? We've got two different assessment levels, or what, is this going to change?
I think this is really subject to the 2009 improvement in those areas, and by and large, the improvements that we're constructing with this project are different areas. So I guess the assessment value would be,
109 users, new users, this is probably, they know now what this, we've been telling this 6,000 figure, $6,100 for water.
yeah, it's very close to the current
Yeah, that's-
assessment, right? Really, I mean, it's,
Well, it's really 6216 is what the assessment's going to be for those 109 users.
no, the 6216 was what it was back in 2009,
Okay,
before the ERA money came in and brought down the costs for the people, you know, because the actual assessments back in 2009 are half of that because there was federal funding that came in late in the game and essentially subsidized everything, and the council chose to apply it to all of the existing property owners rather than pay down the debt service.
Okay, two more, promise. 51092. Pumping required. Why would we, is this for people who have not yet hooked up to our system or what? Because it's owner of individual and cluster sewage treatment systems, but why would we allow that?
So just real quickly, all of these items in this section essentially deal with subsurface treatment systems. And the city has a subsurface treatment system that is really out of date. And really, all the residents are subject to the county ordinance, which is up to date. The county does the inspections, the county does the permitting. But there are a few things the county doesn't do. And so we decided that we would get rid of the old ordinance and pull a few of the items forward that are pertinent. And one of those items that the county doesn't seem to monitor and that the city wants to or has monitored is pumping. You have to pump your septic system, you have to maintain your system, you have to pump it every 3 years. And you're technically supposed to pump it and send, you know, some sort of proof that you are complying with the ordinance and are pumping your septic on a 3-year cycle or less.
But so this is gonna pertain to homes that are not hooked up yet in phase 1.
Yeah, just all homes that are on subsurface treatment systems, you have to pump it every 3rd year. And once you get rid of your subsurface treatment system, you can connect to the municipal system that you don't have a system, so you're not subject to that component.
You were just adding this in here because you needed it. I just wanted to, because it sounds like we're gonna allow people to keep their subsurface treatment system.
This is existing in the current code. So people, we all understand that we're not gonna build this facility for a couple of years. People are gonna keep using septic for a couple of years. And in fact, they're gonna keep, if you would choose to not connect and pay that fee, you could have it for.
And all the people in phase 1B, we won't get to them till at least 2030. They need to pump.
Yep.
They need to pump and they need to prove they pump.
Gotcha.
and the pumping companies bring in those reports and give them to city staff.
Okay, perfect.
I was gonna ask.
So they do report, that's good.
We did them.
So I think 51-093 is actually what we were talking about the variance about.
5109.
Next page. Any variances from the provisions of this code, then they have to go to Olmsted County. Is that what we were talking about with the well?
Well, no, a variance means.
This is just dealing with the subsurface treatment
Yeah.
systems.
Okay,
Not
okay.
well.
So
Yeah, it just says the county has to deal with those. And this is in every other city code. We talked about it. We decided to put it in and just because the county handles that anyway. And the county, so section 3404 of Olmsted County ordinance, you can go read it. They have a process for getting a variance.
So like current homeowners who do not want to hook up, they could request this from the county
Well, they could request a variance for any of the rules,
for any of the rules.
you know, I
But
suppose.
and they wouldn't, but they would not come to the city, they would go to the county.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, done. Thank you for entertaining my questions.
All right, let's jump back down here real quick to planning and zoning. Brandon Radke, and we took. We're gonna table that. I move that, make a motion, we table the rear building. He's gone, so we'll table that to July about the extension. And we need to do more discussion and investigation. Right now, he has a CUP for Verizon cell tower. He's looking at another supplier, but now he's considering being a distributor for these buildings. And we need to do more background work to see if that requires a different CUP or not. So I'd make a motion, we table that till July.
Second.
Kim? You second?
Lori.
Lori, sorry, thank you. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
So Mayor, can we go back? We didn't set the date for the ordinance, the sewer ordinance, because there was a question. People are out of town.
Yeah.
Did we finalize a date for?
No. So we got the 28th or the 29th, Rylan. What do you want to do?
28th will be hard for me, but the 29th I can do.
Is that enough to?
I don't know.
Hey, can we do something on Zoom?
I do it in my car when I'm driving people to and from places.
Use
That's
if you
for
can read your list.
We've got a conflict on the 29th, but
You do
I
the end
can't
of
on the
next week
29th.
rather than the beginning?
I'm
We
gone
just need
next,
quorum.
at the end anyway. But I
That
could
is
do,
like the 24th.
Would there be quorum on 26?
well,
on what
that's
day?
The 26th.
Saturday.
Your original, was it 21st was the original?
We do the 24th or the 25th.
Would there still be quorum? I mean,
I'm
if
gone
there's
those
quorum,
days, and
then
I think
I'm
Jim's
not
gone all
here.
week.
You can still
You're on
do it.
vacation, right?
Yeah,
Oh, but do we have a quorum on the 21st?
I think so.
I
Who
think
can come
so.
on the 21st? We have a quorum.
You need a supermajority.
I was thinking about that. It's not a zoning ordinance. It's not a. I don't think so. I mean, it's just a normal ordinance. I don't think, unless there's a code requirement that is specific to Orinoco.
No.
So you can just set it and then
Let's set it.
I'll
and
cancel
we'll,
it if we have to.
Review, look at the options.
What time?
6:30,
Can we do 6?
6 fine,
No?
What date?
21st, 6.
Perfect.
It's 6 and not 6:30.
I can, yes, I can do that because Jay's actually.
6 PM. Okay.
Special meeting.
Water and sewer, we have an open house for the low pressure system starting tomorrow with Linda from Stantec. Tomorrow, then Thursday,
4 to 7 tomorrow, Thursday, 9 to noon, and 4 to 7 again.
4 to 7.
Wait,
Lots of fun.
wait, say that one more time.
So there's a public open house for people that have low pressure sewer systems. We've mailed them the access agreement and access easement and maintenance agreement and the frequently asked questions document and some other correspondence. And it's their opportunity to come in and ask questions.
So it's tomorrow.
4 to 7 tomorrow and 9 to noon on Thursday and also 4 to 7 on Thursday.
So I don't see it. Is that not usually on our calendar? I mean, was this put out? Do you guys put this out?
We mailed letters to all the property owners.
I haven't been here, so I'm not sure. Sorry.
It's just for.
I'm
it's
only
just for the-
asking, I'm only asking is because I spoke to a low pressure property owner today for a very long time. And they had a ton of questions and not once did they mention this. So I'm worried, that we didn't. I know.
So we send them a letter,
I
it's
know.
highlighted in the letter,
I
we
know.
send them a frequently asked questions, it's highlighted in there.
I know.
I
just, yeah, okay. Yeah, what can you do? All right.
The seeded income survey with Orinoco Estates, there's something scheduled for June the 24th at the Orinoco Estates Community Center. Purchase agreement has been finalized and signed last Friday morning for $123,300. I don't know what the status of the annexation process is, and we can check with Linda on that. Talk about the wastewater ordinance. Going to unfinished business, and because of the time, I would propose that we table the chicken and pet ordinance for July.
Could we do the same thing though and have everybody kind of go through it and make notes and between now and July? So that when we come to talk about it, we have.
Yeah.
We were not
Ready to go
reading
and
it for the
get it
first time.
done.
We're not reading it for the
Yeah, I
first
have
time.
multiple questions too, I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can put it actually on the document, you can actually write them on the Google Doc, that makes sense.
So it's just helpful. I mean, I don't mind doing, it's great that you're reading the ordinances and actually asking questions.
Good,
I mean, I get, honestly,
okay, thanks.
because you brought up, I mean, you caught a typo, actually you caught two typos in that one section, which is the most important section. One was not a typo, it was just a mistake, but yeah, that's great. But I would say, especially if there's that many questions, I do prefer an email, just because then I can just send, and you can re-ask the question in the open meeting, so everybody can listen to the answer. But maybe you just, if you have 5 questions, maybe you just pick 1 or 2 to do that with, you know.
Like you don't want me to do what I did tonight?
No, well, with the sewer ordinance, yes, because this is an important, I mean, this
Okay.
one, very important,
Gotcha.
so. Yeah, but I do prefer it by, but obviously you can ask questions out loud.
Okay.
I don't mind. So are they asking for the chicken, the person who wanted to do the chickens, do they keep asking for that, or?
I haven't heard, Jim maybe would
I
have.
have one neighbor that keeps asking, when are you guys gonna be done with it?
So if you want to just ask the questions in July and then adopt it in August, if that's fine.
So make a motion,
And I wouldn't.
table that to July, is there a second?
Second.
Second, I would not worry about
Okay.
that.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
National Night Out. For the listing of the activities that Geraldine and Renee has been working on with the packet. August the 3rd, a lot of new things, a lot of good donations coming in. And it'll be here at City Hall area, in the fire department. A lot of information there. Ask for Geraldine or Renee if you have any questions. Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve, oh, you already did it. Approve, second.
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 I'm just as tired.
Right, seeing no comments, all those in favor of approving consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Adjournment, 9:15. Make a motion to adjourn,
Second.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Good meeting, covered a lot, and I think we got some good feedback on the ordinance.
So the person I was talking to.
Talk to Mrs. Upward.
Yeah, I know that